Humble Nanny takes twins to the park when suddenly they sprint towards a stranger with tears in their eyes, shouting "Daddy," as if they had just found a missing piece of their hearts. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. A warm spring breeze danced through the quiet suburban streets that morning, rustling the freshly bloomed lilacs near the open windows of the modest townhouse where Olivia Martinez lived and worked. She had been employed there for 2 years, but not in the capacity many might imagine. Although the owners were wealthy, the house itself was unassuming, just spacious enough to accommodate its occupants, but nowhere near a grand estate. Within these walls, Olivia, a discreet and kind-hearted nanny, had found both a place of employment and a sense of belonging. Every morning, Olivia woke at the first glow of dawn, ensuring the twins, Lucas and Sophia, had a healthy breakfast and were dressed for the day. At just 4 years old, the 2 children were as bright as the morning sun, bursting with curiosity and energy. Their father was never present. Their mother, her employer, was an executive who traveled constantly and communicated through short messages or phone calls. It had become Olivia's silent mission to provide these children the love and care they so desperately missed in the absence of a strong parental figure at home. Yet there was a lingering question, rarely spoken of: the identity of the twins' father. The children's mother seldom mentioned him, and in the rare moments she did, her tone turned guarded and bitter. Over time, Olivia pieced together hints that something had happened before the children were born, something that made the father disappear from their lives entirely. She didn't pry. It was not her place, she thought. But she couldn't help feeling concern for the twins, who often asked why all their friends at daycare had dads who attended birthday parties or game days, while theirs was seemingly absent. That sunny Saturday morning, she planned to take Lucas and Sophia to the local park, one of the few treats Olivia could afford to give them on her limited means. She packed a simple picnic lunch of sandwiches, fruit slices, and little juice boxes. The children, decked in colorful shirts and sneakers, practically skipped down the sidewalk, voices echoing with excitement. "Olivia, can we feed the ducks again?" Sophia squealed, hugging her teddy bear as she walked. "We have bread for them, right?" Lucas added, his eyes shining. "Yes, my loves. I have some leftover crusts you can give them," Olivia answered with a patient smile, checking that the crosswalk light was in their favor. "But remember, we only feed the ducks a little. We don't want them to get sick." The children nodded, crossing the street hand in hand with her. Nearby, the rhythmic sound of a lawnmower hummed, and neighbors watered flower beds or hopped into cars to run errands. Everything felt serene, ordinary, safe. Olivia couldn't have known how, in less than an hour, her entire world, and the twins, would be turned upside down. Upon reaching the park, a wide, grassy expanse dotted with playground equipment and winding paths, Olivia let the twins run free toward their favorite play structure. She settled on a nearby bench, carefully unpacking their snacks. The occasional chirp of birds offered a pleasant background to the joyful squeals of kids. Soccer balls rolled across the grass while a father pushed his giggling daughter on the swings. On any other day, such a scene simply made Olivia wistful, wishing the twins could share such moments with their own father. Yet something felt different that morning. Olivia sensed an undercurrent she couldn't name. As she watched, Lucas and Sophia giggled while climbing the slide and chasing each other around. Then, in a flash, they both froze in place, looking across the playground as though they'd seen a familiar face. Without warning, they barreled off, sand flying from their tiny sneakers, leaving Olivia puzzled and calling after them, "Lucas! Sophia, wait!" She jumped to her feet, alarmed that they were headed toward a group of adults who were just stepping out of sleek black cars parked near the entrance. Among them was a distinguished-looking businessman, tall, with carefully styled hair and wearing a tailored suit despite the casual park atmosphere. He was clearly important. He carried himself with a confident air, consulting a smartphone held in his left hand while gesturing politely with the other to the people around him. Olivia jogged forward to intercept the twins, heart pounding. But before she could catch up, Lucas and Sophia launched themselves at the man with unrestrained joy. They wrapped their little arms around his legs, beaming upward as if greeting someone they had known all their lives. "Daddy!" squealed Sophia with delight. "Daddy, we missed you!" Lucas added, hugging tighter. The group of adults looked on in confusion, and the businessman's phone fell from his hand onto the grass as he stared down at the two children clutching him. The color drained from his face. For a moment, he seemed to forget how to speak or move, as though the world had paused around him. Olivia reached the scene breathless, a swirl of panic welling in her chest. Why were the twins calling this stranger Daddy? She grabbed them gently by the shoulders, scanning their little faces, expecting them to be mistaken. Yet the children looked convinced beyond doubt, eyes bright with recognition, giggling with relief and happiness, as if they'd been reunited with a beloved figure from a dream. I'm sorry," Olivia stammered, turning to the man. They must be confused. I don't know what—" But she stopped. Something in his eyes told her that he recognized them too. He seemed haunted, mesmerized, as though a memory from the past had suddenly materialized before him. He knelt down slowly, meeting Lucas and Sophia at eye level. In that silence, the wind seemed to hush. The distant laughter of children on the swings seemed to fade. A question trembled on his lips. How can this be? He finally managed, voice cracking. Everything about his expression, the stunned recognition, the unsteady breath, made Olivia's heart thunder. She saw him waver, his hands almost reaching out to touch the children. She felt the weight of the moment press on her shoulders. This was no casual mix-up. Deep inside, she recognized the man. It was the children's mother's former boss, Daniel Harrington, a name that was only mentioned in passing a few times back at the house. No details ever came forth except that 2 years ago, he suddenly transferred overseas for a major promotion. Olivia knew nothing else, only that his abrupt departure had left the twins' mother perpetually guarded. Now here he was, standing face to face with children who bore a striking resemblance to him, from the faint dimples on their cheeks to the same curious spark in their eyes. And he was looking at Olivia with an expression that demanded answers. She realized in that split second that her life had just crashed headlong into a secret bigger than herself. The twins stared up at him with complete trust, their small hands gripping his lapels. He swallowed hard, glancing between them and Olivia. He appeared torn between 1,000 emotions: joy, disbelief, anger, regret. "I never knew," he whispered, blinking rapidly as if to fight back tears. "No one ever told me. I didn't know I had children. I didn't know—" Olivia's chest tightened. Had the children's mother hidden the pregnancy from him? How could such a thing be concealed? And why? The magnitude of the lies, the heartbreak, swirled in her mind. She placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder, gently trying to steady the children's excitement. But they clung to Daniel, repeating "Daddy" in voices brimming with hope. The bystanders, men in suits and passers-by at the park, stood silent, as though they too recognized that something deeply personal and life-altering was unfolding. One of the suited men stepped forward, murmuring to Daniel about an urgent meeting. Daniel waved him off, his gaze never leaving Lucas and Sophia. "This changes everything," he whispered, eyes flickering toward Olivia as though silently begging for confirmation. "They're my kids?" Olivia could only nod faintly, her words stuck in her throat. In that moment, the sun seemed to shine harsher than usual, revealing truths that had been buried for years. The park chatter, the bustle of everyday life, all felt small compared to the surge of raw emotion that threatened to overwhelm her. She had spent 2 years raising these children alone in their mother's absence, and now the father they never knew stood before them, just as stunned as she was. She realized this was only the beginning. Whatever secrets, misunderstandings, or manipulations had led to this moment, they were about to unravel. And in the process, she might be thrust into a war between loyalty to the twins' mother, her employer, and the father who so clearly never knew the truth. Above all, she had to consider the twins' future, their right to have a family that wasn't built on deception. But even as chaos reigned in her mind, Olivia felt the children's excitement bubble over, the first taste of paternal warmth they had longed for. Daniel Harrington, despite his shock, lifted them gently into his arms, tears gathering in his eyes. "We'll figure this out," he murmured, voice trembling. "I promise." Olivia inhaled shakily, the path forward uncertain, the ground beneath them shifting like sand. As Daniel clutched the twins, his men insisted they depart for the business meeting, but he lingered, as though anchoring himself in a new reality that refused to let him go. Olivia braced for the inevitable confrontation with her employer, the avalanche of explanations needed. But for now, the immediate question was simpler. Where would the twins belong? And how would this unexpected reunion transform their innocent world? Would you like me to continue with Section 210, O1 Pro? Você disse yes, solicitação de O1 Promoji. Pensou por tremin Section 210. Daniel Harrington held the twins in his arms, fighting a turmoil of questions that twisted inside him like a storm. Not far away, Olivia stood helpless, her heart pounding. On the surface, the park's weekend bustle continued as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Mothers pushing strollers, children squabbling over the swing, ice cream vendors greeting customers. But for these four people, time had fractured into before and after. "Mommy, look, that man has their kids!" a curious child called out from a distance, drawing fleeting attention. Some passers-by paused, sensing an intimate scene they weren't meant to witness. Yet it all blended into a hazy background as Daniel slowly set Lucas and Sophia back on their feet, kneeling to their eye level. He brushed Sophia's hair behind her ear with a trembling hand, as though making sure she was real, not a mirage conjured by guilt or longing. He had so many questions and so few words to contain them. Meanwhile, his colleagues hovered nearby, torn between giving him space and reminding him of the important business conference they were already late for. None dared speak as they observed a side of Daniel they had never witnessed, vulnerable, emotional, entirely at the mercy of two small children and the gentle nanny standing behind them. "Olivia, my God!" He finally rose, looking at her with a mixture of disbelief and a quiet demand for answers. I didn't know," he repeated, voice cracking. No one said a word. She understood the implication instantly. Who would have told him? The children's mother was seldom around, always traveling, always preoccupied. Years ago, Olivia had heard of Daniel vaguely. Her employer never provided details, only that he'd left for a lucrative promotion overseas right before she discovered her pregnancy. Over time, Olivia surmised that some rift had torn the two apart. But the hush that followed his departure, the absolute silence about who fathered the twins, still baffled her. And now, in an improbable twist, here he was in the flesh. I'm as surprised as you," Olivia admitted. She bit her lip, shaking her head slowly, trying to assemble her scattered thoughts. "Nobody told me much either. I only know what the children's mother mentioned in passing, and that was barely anything. She travels all the time. You never came up in detail." Daniel swallowed hard, glancing down at the twins. Sophia clutched a small stuffed cat in her arms, the same one she slept with each night, while Lucas stared at Daniel's expensive watch. They were strangely at ease around him, as though an instinctual bond had clicked into place the moment they saw his face. It unsettled Olivia how quickly the children had recognized him. Did they have some memory from photos, or had they simply felt something they couldn't articulate? He cast one last glance at his associates, who still lingered. "Take the car. Go on without me. I'll handle the negotiations later." His voice was firm, a single gesture commanding them to leave. Though they clearly disagreed, they obeyed, muttering to each other as they headed off. A flood of relief washed over Olivia. but also anxiety. Now alone with Daniel, she was forced to confront the reality that overshadowed them both. If he truly never knew, how would he react to the lie he'd unwittingly lived with? Where did that leave her? And more importantly, where did that leave Lucas and Sophia? "We should talk somewhere quieter," Olivia suggested. She patted Lucas's head gently, trying to maintain calm. "The children are going to be overwhelmed." Daniel exhaled a breath he seemed to have been holding for weeks or even years. "There's a coffee shop on the next street," he said, glancing around. "Could we go there? I need to understand how this happened." Lucas tugged at the hem of Daniel's pristine suit jacket. "Can we still feed the ducks first, Daddy?" "Olivia brought bread," he said innocently. Sophia nodded in agreement, eyes shining. "Please?" A wave of guilt and longing crossed Daniel's face. How many fatherly moments had he missed? He bent down again, touching Lucas's shoulder. "We can feed the ducks tomorrow." He caught himself. Would there be a tomorrow with them? "I promise we'll do everything you want. But first, let's just find a place to talk. All right?" The children, sensing the tension, fell silent. Usually they would pout or protest, but they must have grasped something monumental was taking shape. Olivia quickly gathered the small backpack and half-eaten sandwiches, then guided the children to follow Daniel. She felt like they were trespassing in a place they didn't belong, though logically she knew the park was public. The day was hers to spend with the kids any way she wished. But the atmosphere had irrevocably changed. Upon arriving at the coffee shop, a quaint place with pastel walls and a worn wooden counter, Daniel secured a private table in the back corner. The twins plopped onto their chairs with wide eyes, marveling at the pastry display and the bustle of baristas steaming milk. It was a far cry from their usual routine of a midday snack at home. Meanwhile, Daniel ordered a latte for himself, casting a quick glance at Olivia. She politely declined, focusing on keeping the children calm. "Please get something," Daniel insisted softly. "It's the least I can do right now." She hesitated, then nodded. "All right, just a coffee." When the drinks arrived, she helped the twins share a small juice box from her bag, trying to keep them occupied. Daniel faced her directly, his voice low and urgent. "Tell me everything you know. How old are they exactly? Where is their mother? Why would she keep this from me?" His questions poured out. Olivia's mind raced to formulate a coherent answer. "They're 4, she managed, feeling a pang of protectiveness for her young charges. "Their birthday was last month. Their mother was out of the country at the time for a business conference. She rarely stays home longer than a few days. I've been with them full-time, so yes, effectively raising them. But she insisted she had no contact with you. I don't know why. She never said so explicitly, but I assumed you two had parted on bad terms and that you were aware you had children. Maybe you just didn't want to be involved." He flinched as though slapped, pain flashing across his features. "I would never." He took a shaky breath. "I had no idea. None. After I relocated overseas, we lost touch, and I didn't hear from her again. If I'd known—" He stopped, visibly trembling with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. 4 years gone. The twins were coloring on napkins with crayons they'd found in Olivia's bag. They seemed momentarily oblivious to the thick tension, exchanging hushed giggles. But every now and then they'd look up at Daniel with small smiles, as if to assure him they were there, real, and no longer hidden in the shadows of secrecy. Olivia watched him carefully, her protective instincts flaring. "Listen, Mr. Harrington. Daniel, please. All right. Daniel. This situation is as shocking to me as it is to you, but we have to keep the children's well-being in mind first. I don't even know what the mother will do if she finds out you've come back." Her voice quivered slightly. The truth was, she feared retribution from her employer. Maybe she'd lose her job or be accused of orchestrating this meeting somehow. Daniel's gaze softened. I promise you I'm not here to upend your life or the twins, but I need to see them. I need to be in their lives. You must understand how important this is to me. She did understand, deep down. But it wasn't her decision to make, though, ironically, she was the one who had the children in her care day and night. You'll need to talk to their mother, explain your side. I don't know how she'll react. She's not the most flexible person. A flicker of old memories passed over Daniel's face. No, she never was, he admitted. He folded his hands, trying to steady his voice. I have legal rights. If she intentionally hid my children, there will be consequences. Yet, before I escalate anything, I want to try talking to her calmly. I'd prefer not to drag the twins into a bitter conflict. The mention of a potential legal battle made Olivia's stomach churn. She pictured the children stuck in a tug-of-war, with lawyers picking apart every detail of her day-to-day role. They were only 4, so sweet and trusting. They didn't deserve that. Let's not talk about lawyers just yet, she suggested gently. Maybe she had her reasons, though I can't imagine what they'd be. Daniel nodded, scanning the restaurant. He watched as Sophia pointed out pictures in a colorful picture book to Lucas. He studied their faces, seeking parts of himself in their features, a tilt of the chin, the same shade of brown in their eyes, that curious, unspoken kinship. Thank you for taking care of them, he said suddenly, meeting Olivia's eyes. His sincerity almost took her breath away. I can't imagine how much work it's been doing it alone. She felt her cheeks warming under his earnest gaze. They're wonderful children, she said simply, and they've had no one else. I tried my best. A bittersweet silence fell. On the one hand, the children seemed entirely comfortable, enjoying their new friend who'd bought them juice in a cafe. On the other hand, Daniel and Olivia bore the weight of an adult situation they had never asked for. He cleared his throat. Where are you staying? I'd like to come by the house, maybe see their room, their toys, understand who they are. She froze. Her employer's expensive townhouse was effectively the children's primary home, and also a fortress of secrets. Yes, well, it's not really my place to invite you, she said carefully. Their mother would have to decide that. Daniel looked frustrated, but controlled himself. Tomorrow, then, he said with forced calm. I'll call her. She may not answer, but I'll call. I can't let this go on another day without trying. Before Olivia could reply, the twins hopped up from their seats, their short attention spans running out. Lucas tugged on Daniel's arm. Can we go back to the park? We never fed the ducks? Sophia giggled, holding up the bag of bread scraps as proof. Daniel, still reeling from the morning's revelations, glanced at Olivia, seeking permission, already slipping into fatherly concern. Is it all right if I go with them for a bit? He asked. I won't keep them long, or if you prefer, he stammered, not wanting to overstep. Truthfully, Olivia's instinct was to be cautious. Yet one look at the children's shining faces softened her. Perhaps giving them an hour of normalcy was best before bracing for the storm that would surely follow when their mother found out. She nodded. I'll go with you, she said, standing up and gathering her purse. Let's let them have this one simple joy, feeding the ducks with their father. Those last words resonated strangely in her mouth, but they made Sophia and Lucas bounce excitedly. Daniel smiled down at the children, something genuine lighting up in his eyes. They trotted together back toward the little park, Daniel holding both twins' hands. Something in that image, like a puzzle piece clicking into place, brought an ache to Olivia's chest, a mixture of relief and worry. For the next half hour, they stood by the pond. Lucas and Sophia tossed bread bits into the water, giggling whenever the ducks flapped and squabbled over them. Daniel gently guided their arms, showing them how to get the ducks to come closer. He knelt between his children, his expensive suit pants now smudged with grass and dirt, uncaring of appearances for once. Olivia watched from a short distance, hugging herself against a sudden breeze. For 2 years, she had watched other families do exactly this, while Lucas and Sophia had quietly asked why they never had a daddy to hold their hands. And now the father they so desperately wanted had appeared, equally starved for their affection. But what would happen next? Tomorrow might bring confrontation. The mother could react in unpredictable ways, possibly even send Olivia away. Questions of paternity tests, custody battles, or accusations swirled ominously in her mind. Yet, as she observed Daniel lifting Sophia to point out a brightly colored drake near the reeds, something in her believed that, if they handled this carefully, the twins could finally have the family they'd lacked. There was no turning back from this discovery. The truth was out, written in every delighted laugh the children directed at the man they had instinctively called Daddy. Olivia felt a complicated knot of emotions in her own chest, unease at what she might lose, hope for the children's gain, and a strange empathy for the father who'd been robbed of these precious early years. When the bread ran out, Lucas declared triumphantly that the ducks were totally full now. Daniel scooped him up, and he squealed with excitement. Sophia, not wanting to miss out, tugged at Daniel's sleeve until he picked her up too, one child in each arm. He looked over at Olivia with a profound gratitude etched on his face. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I'll do everything in my power to make this right." She nodded, uncertain if making it right was even possible after so much secrecy. Yet, there in the warmth of the afternoon sun, as the children's laughter drifted across the park, Olivia had to believe that second chances sometimes came when least expected. She pulled out her phone, scanning for any calls or messages from the twins' mother. There were none. In the hush of that realization, she turned her eyes back to Daniel, who now carried Lucas and Sophia with the ease of a father who had done so all his life. Across the pond, a father guided his toddler onto a wooden bench. Life went on for everyone else, but for these children, tomorrow's sunrise would bring a new chapter, a confrontation with the past, and a redefinition of the future. Olivia hoped against hope that no matter how messy the truth became, the twins would remain shielded, because love, once discovered, was not easily dismissed, and the twins, who had run to a stranger crying "Daddy," would never unfeel the joy of that reunion no matter what came next. Would you like me to continue with Section 310? Você diz, yes, insecurities and revelations. Pensou por Tomb 32's, Section 310. That evening, Olivia discovered just how uneasy her heart could feel in an otherwise silent house. Lucas and Sophia fell asleep earlier than usual, probably worn out by the excitement of meeting Daniel, the man they instinctively called Daddy. After ensuring the children were tucked in, Olivia tidied the kitchen as the faint hum of the dishwasher underscored her circling thoughts. On the table lay a simple note scrawled in her neat handwriting. Daniel Harrington's business card, alongside a barely legible message he'd left for the twins' mother. "Please call me as soon as you can. This can't wait." The mother, Vanessa, was supposed to return in 2 days from a conference in another state, but she was known to change her itinerary without warning. Occasionally she popped in at dawn or after midnight, hurrying upstairs to check on the kids before rushing out again. Olivia's stomach twisted at the possibility of Vanessa walking in at any moment, discovering that not only had Daniel found her children, he'd also spent the afternoon bonding with them. Would she be furious? Would she blame Olivia? And how exactly would the conversation go once Daniel tried to stake his claim in their lives? Seated on the living room couch, Olivia let out a trembling breath. She recalled the gentle way Daniel had lifted the children at the park, his whispered promises, the heartbreak in his eyes at learning 4 lost years could never be returned. She pitied him, even as she worried about the mother's reaction. But the part that troubled her most was the children's unwavering delight. They'd been glowing with happiness since returning home, peppering Olivia with questions about Daniel, eager for another day with the father they'd never known. A faint beep from her phone pulled her out of her thoughts. She picked it up to see a short text from Vanessa. "Arriving tomorrow morning. Flight changed. Expect me at 8 a.m. V." No mention of wanting updates on the children, no inquiries about their day, just a curt directive. Yet it was enough to knot Olivia's nerves, anticipating the storm about to break. She hurried upstairs to peer into the twins' bedroom one last time. In the soft glow of a nightlight shaped like a smiling moon, Lucas and Sophia were sound asleep, cuddled beneath matching dinosaur and fairy blankets. She wanted to preserve this moment of calm, knowing tomorrow might upend everything. The next morning arrived swiftly. At 7:55 a.m., Olivia heard the rumble of a car pulling up outside. She rushed to the kitchen window, seeing a sleek black sedan. Vanessa stepped out, impeccably dressed as always, smart heels and a fitted skirt suit, her hair twisted into a tight chignon. At first glance, she looked every bit the high-level executive prepared to deliver a keynote speech. One would never guess she was a mother returning to 2 children she hadn't seen in almost a month. Steeling herself, Olivia hurried to open the door. Vanessa swept in without greeting, her suitcase wheels clacking on the tiled entryway. "Coffee," she requested curtly, walking straight past Olivia into the living room. Olivia hurried to comply. She set about grinding beans, boiling water. Her mind spun over how to broach the subject of Daniel's visit or whether to wait for him to call. Vanessa, settling on the living room sofa, skimmed through a stack of mail. Only when Olivia returned with a steaming cup did she lift her gaze slightly. "Where are my children?" she asked, as though the question were mere formality. "They're still asleep," Olivia replied softly. "It's only 8 o'clock. They've had a busy weekend." Vanessa arched a brow. "Busy? Doing what?" Olivia inhaled, summoning her courage. "Yesterday I took them to the park. They saw someone there." "Really?" Vanessa sipped her coffee with cool disinterest. "And who might that be? Another nanny and her kids, I assume?" "No." Olivia braced herself. "It was Daniel Harrington." Vanessa's hand jerked, nearly spilling the coffee. For an instant, her immaculate facade cracked, surprise flashing in her eyes. "Daniel Harrington," she repeated in a stiff voice. "My former boss, that Daniel Harrington." She stared at Olivia, a silent question burning behind her carefully composed features. "Yes, he was at the park with some business associates," Olivia continued, feeling her pulse thump. "He recognized the twins. Actually, they ran to him, calling him Daddy." It was as if someone had struck Vanessa across the face. The composure she guarded so fiercely splintered, and she placed the cup on the coffee table with a trembling hand. "Did he speak to them?" Olivia glanced away, deciding honesty was their only path now. "He spent a couple of hours with them. We had coffee together. He asked a lot of questions. He wants to see them again." Vanessa closed her eyes, exhaling in a mix of anger and something akin to dread. "And you allowed that?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You let a stranger walk up and play father to my children?" Olivia tried to keep her tone even. "He isn't just a stranger, ma'am. He's their father. They knew. It was immediate, and he had no idea about them. He'd never been told." Vanessa sprang to her feet, pacing. The click of her heels on the floor matched the tension that flared between them. "You don't understand the complexities, Olivia. You're just the nanny. I pay you to follow instructions, not to share personal information with men who have no claim here." "Then why?" Olivia wanted to keep calm, but frustration welled up. "If he has no claim, why not tell him from the start that you were pregnant? Why hide the fact that he's their father?" "You presume to judge me?" Vanessa's cheeks burned. "I know people like him, how they operate. I had career plans. He was about to relocate. The situation was complicated. Let's leave it at that." She paused, breath quivering. "He walked away from our relationship first." Walked away not knowing you were expecting? Olivia reminded gently, mindful of her own precarious position. I think he deserves a chance to speak for himself. And the twins, they were overjoyed. Vanessa's jaw tightened. She spun back toward the coffee table, nearly toppling the cup. Where is his number? Did he leave a card? Wordlessly, Olivia handed her the small slip of paper. Vanessa snatched it and read it, her expression unreadable. With the same abrupt energy, she rummaged for her phone, shot Olivia a hard look, then strode out the front door onto the porch for a private conversation. From the window, Olivia caught glimpses of Vanessa gesturing sharply, her voice raised. She couldn't make out the exact words, but it didn't look amicable. Eventually, Vanessa ended the call and paced in tight circles, inhaling deeply as if grappling with a sudden rush of panic. Upstairs, Lucas woke with a soft murmur. "Olivia, can we have pancakes?" The voice was sweet, half dreamy. Olivia hurried to the staircase, grateful for an excuse to escape the tension below. "Good morning, little man," she whispered, scooping him up. "Let's get you dressed. Your mom is here." Lucas blinked, as though the concept of mom was secondary to the memory of daddy. "Is Daniel coming?" he asked. The innocence made Olivia's heart ache. She forced a light tone. "Let's see what your mommy says, okay?" When Olivia carried him downstairs, Sophia joined them, rubbing her eyes. Spotting Vanessa, both children stood uncertainly. They were used to their mother's arrivals, though sometimes they hesitated, unsure what mood she'd be in. Today, Vanessa forced a smile and beckoned them closer. She kissed each child's forehead. "Hello, my darlings," she said, an undertone of tension beneath the sweetness. "Olivia tells me you had an interesting weekend." Lucas and Sophia glanced at each other with excitement. "We met Daddy," Lucas blurted. "He's really tall, and he bought us juice, and we fed ducks at the park together. Did you know they like bread?" The corners of Vanessa's mouth twitched as she listened, struggling to maintain composure. She lightly ran a hand over Sophia's hair. "I see," she said quietly. "Sometimes ducks like seeds more than bread, you know. But yes, I'm sure it was fun. Now why don't you go watch a cartoon for a few minutes while I talk to Olivia?" The children scampered away, giggling about the memory of ducks. Vanessa exhaled a long breath once they were out of sight. Then she turned back to Olivia with an icy calm that signaled her fury was only partly contained. "He's demanding to see them again tonight," Vanessa said. "He wants to come to the house. I told him absolutely not, without my supervision. But it seems he's quite serious about exercising his rights. He mentioned lawyers." Olivia felt her stomach flip. She'd suspected this might come up, but hearing it from Vanessa confirmed the severity of the situation. "If he's their father legally—" "I know the law," Vanessa snapped, then softened her tone slightly. "I'm not ignorant of it. But that doesn't mean I'll hand over my children to him on a silver platter just because he suddenly decided to show up." She paused, letting out a shaky breath. "All these years, he never tried to contact me or see if we could make things right. Then he wants to waltz in? I had to raise them alone. If I told him from day one, it could have complicated my entire career. He was out of the country anyway." Olivia found it difficult not to say something in Daniel's defense, but she knew any argument risked her own livelihood. "He may not see it that way," she said carefully. "He believes you never gave him a choice." Vanessa's eyes flashed with pent-up anger and regret. She paced the room, heels clacking. "He'll be here tonight at 8, she informed, her tone resigned. "I'll let him talk to the children for 30 minutes, no more, and we'll see where it goes from there." She looked pointedly at Olivia. "You'll be present. I don't want him stirring them up with wild promises." Before Olivia could answer, Vanessa added in a low hiss, "And don't forget who employs you, Olivia. If Daniel tries to push me into a corner, I expect your loyalty. Keep them calm, do your usual job, but don't cross me." A prickle of anxiety slid down Olivia's spine. The mother's ultimatum was clear. She recalled how excited the children had been with Daniel. how sweetly he interacted with them. Yet her own position was now perched on a thin wire. She offered a polite nod, forcing neutral words out of her mouth. "I'll be here." Vanessa smoothed her skirt as though that simple gesture could restore her outward control. "Good. Then we'll handle him tonight. Let's keep things civil, for the children's sake." Through the window, morning sunlight spilled into the living room, but the atmosphere remained thick with apprehension. In the kitchen, the smell of coffee lingered, hinting at normalcy that refused to settle in. Olivia watched Vanessa check her phone once more, presumably ensuring her confrontation with Daniel would go exactly as planned. Upstairs, the twins chatted about the day at the park, unaware of the brewing confrontation. They just knew they finally had a father who made them laugh, who seemed enthralled with their every move. Down here, adult tensions threatened to overshadow their joy. Olivia braced herself for the evening's collision. Hours from now, Daniel Harrington would appear at the threshold. On one side, the mother who had hidden her pregnancy and raised the children her own way, fiercely guarding her independence. On the other, the father who'd had 4 years of fatherhood stolen from him and was determined not to lose another day. Caught in the middle were Lucas, Sophia, and Olivia, the nanny whose simple goal had been to provide love and stability. No matter how it ended, nothing would remain the same after tonight. The truth, finally laid bare, rarely came without a price. Yet Olivia, glancing at the framed pictures of the twins on a side table, realized she had no choice. She had to protect them. She hoped, in some corner of her heart, that truth and love might triumph over pride and anger. But she also sensed the raging storm was only just beginning to gather force. "Would you like me to continue with section 4 to 10? Você diz, yes. Solicitação de O1 Pro Mode. Pensou por WEM 58, section 410. That afternoon crawled by in tense slow motion. Vanessa remained at the house, which was unusual. More often, the twins' mother would disappear into her office, racing against deadlines or rush to a series of business lunches. But today she lingered. She paced from room to room, fidgeting with small details, straightening a vase of flowers, checking her phone incessantly for emails, adjusting decorative pillows, as though searching for control in the smallest corners of her home. Olivia watched warily from the kitchen, preparing lunch for the children while her employer seemed to circle them like a coiled spring. The twins, sensing something charged in the air, remained unusually subdued. They pressed Olivia with curious, soft-spoken questions. Would Daddy be coming back today? Was Mommy mad at him? Lucas especially kept glancing toward the front door as if he expected Daniel to appear at any moment with open arms. Each time Olivia stroked their hair or offered a gentle smile, trying to reassure them, though truthfully she was anything but sure. Vanessa had decided on a meticulously planned schedule. Daniel could arrive at 8, stay until 8:30, then leave. No exceptions. Olivia wondered if that strict time slot would backfire. Daniel had been insistent over the phone about his right to see the children, to know them, to be present. Yet this was at least a step forward. A day ago, no one had dared imagine a father's presence in this living room. When lunchtime arrived, Olivia ushered the children to the dining table, serving them grilled cheese sandwiches cut into fun shapes and small bowls of tomato soup. Vanessa joined them, though she picked at her food more than ate it, her eyes darting to her phone. Occasionally, she forced an overly bright smile at Lucas and Sophia, asking how many ducks they fed the previous day, or how they liked their sandwiches. The children answered politely, but the conversation quickly fizzled. It was obvious the mother's attention was elsewhere. After lunch, Vanessa retreated to her upstairs office under the pretext of virtual meetings. Olivia cleaned the table, then led the twins outside to the backyard, hoping the fresh air would dispel some of their restlessness. They played an improvised game of hopscotch on the patio, chalk lines colored in pinks and blues. She tried to keep their spirits light, encouraging them to giggle, race, and forget about grown-up troubles. But no matter how lively their game, She noticed the quick glances they exchanged, or the way Lucas paused mid-hop to stare at the back door. The hours ticked on. Vanessa emerged around 4 o'clock, impeccably dressed in a fresh blouse and heels, as though preparing for a business gala rather than a personal meeting. She announced that dinner would be at 6, a family affair in the dining room, and Olivia was to keep it simple, pasta maybe, or chicken. Nothing messy, Vanessa specified, her tone clipped. I don't want the house smelling like fried foods when he arrives. Olivia nodded in acquiescence, biting her tongue. She could see the anxiety under Vanessa's composed surface, the rigid posture, the fidgeting with her watch, the restless clicking of her manicured nails. While she prepared the meal, the children sat at the kitchen table coloring pictures. Sophia drew a tall figure with wavy lines representing arms, labeling him Daddy. Lucas drew a scene with ducks, breadcrumbs, and wide, happy smiles on every face. Olivia tried not to let the pang in her chest show as she stirred the sauce. At 6 sharp, they gathered in the dining room. The table was set with formal place settings, cloth napkins, polished silverware. The children were a little impressed by the fancy arrangement, but Olivia could tell they felt uneasy, like they had to behave perfectly. Vanessa, eyes flicking to the clock, made an attempt at casual conversation. So, Sophia, she ventured, cutting her chicken with careful precision, tell me about your drawing earlier, the one you labeled Daddy. Did he teach you anything at the park? Her voice wavered, straining to sound nonchalant. Sophia chewed thoughtfully, nodding. He said if I hold bread in my hand real still, the duck might come right up, she recalled with a small grin. But I got scared and dropped it. Lucas piped in, mouth half full. He can pick us up like we weigh nothing, and he said we should visit the park again soon. Right, Mommy? Vanessa's expression tightened. Olivia hurried to diffuse any tension. We can always go back, kids. But let's see how this evening goes first, okay? She cast a gentle look at Vanessa, who inclined her head slightly, acknowledging Olivia's attempt to mediate. Dinner concluded without major conflict, but the atmosphere was far from relaxed. As the clock inched toward 8, Vanessa became more visibly on edge. She checked the mirror in the hallway, smoothing her skirt, reapplying lipstick. The children, excited yet uncertain, lingered by the living room window. Olivia felt her palms sweat, recalling Vanessa's earlier warning about loyalty. She only wanted to support the twins, but the mother's and Daniel's clashing interests weighed heavily on her. At 7:59, the doorbell rang. Vanessa stiffened. Olivia ushered the children to the sofa, instructing them to sit quietly. She noticed Lucas's grip on Sophia's hand, a detail that pulled at her heart. Then Vanessa strode to the door, gave one last breath to compose herself, and opened it. Daniel stood on the threshold, wearing a button-down shirt and slacks. He held a small bag of fruit gummies, clearly meant for the twins. The moment his eyes met Vanessa's, a silent spark of anger, regret, and something more flashed between them. Yet Daniel's gaze shifted quickly past her, seeking the living room. "Hello, Vanessa," he said quietly. "Thank you for letting me come." She arched a brow. 30 minutes, she reminded him flatly. No more. Daniel exhaled as though biting back a retort, then stepped inside, shrugging off a light jacket and handing it to Olivia with a polite nod. He walked toward the living room, and the children jumped to their feet. Lucas nearly stumbled in his rush to greet him while Sophia squealed. "Daddy!" they both chimed. A soft smile broke across Daniel's face, all tension melting momentarily. He knelt, opening his arms, and they sprang into them. "Hey, you two," he murmured, ruffling Lucas's hair, pressing a gentle kiss to Sophia's temple. "I missed you." They guided him to the sofa eagerly, showing off the drawings they'd made. Daniel listened intently, praising their artistic attempts at depicting ducks and parks. All the while, Vanessa stood near the wall, arms folded, posture rigid, observing from a distance. Olivia hovered, unsure whether to join them or give them space. She felt like an invisible barrier between mother and father, both of whom seemed reluctant to let the other out of sight. "How was your day?" Daniel ventured, directing the question at the twins. Sophia babbled about playing hopscotch and coloring. Lucas mentioned how Mommy had stayed home all day instead of going to work. Daniel darted a look at Vanessa, who averted her gaze. He handed each child a small pack of fruit gummies. "I brought you these. Just a treat," he said. They accepted with wide smiles. Vanessa cleared her throat, stepping forward. "You said you had things to discuss with me," she addressed Daniel stiffly. "We have about 20 minutes left. Perhaps we should get on with it." Daniel's mouth set in a line. "Could the kids go to another room for a moment? I don't want them to overhear everything." Vanessa hesitated, glancing at Olivia. "Take them upstairs, please," she directed, voice taut. "They can watch cartoons there." "Come on, kiddos," Olivia said gently, extending her hands. Lucas started to protest. He didn't want to miss a second with his newly returned father. But Daniel softly assured him, "I'll still be here in a few minutes, bud." As Olivia led them up the stairs, she heard Daniel and Vanessa exchange hushed words in the living room, a conversation that carried the tone of old resentments resurfacing. Once she had the twins settled in front of a TV show in the small upstairs sitting area, she lingered at the banister, listening discreetly. She told herself it was just to ensure the children didn't hear raised voices, but part of her needed to know how this confrontation would unfold. Vanessa's voice was the first to rise. "I did what was best for everyone at the time. You walked away from us." "You never gave me a chance," Daniel countered, frustration lacing his words. "I left for the promotion because you practically pushed me out, and you never once mentioned you were pregnant. No note, no phone call, nothing. I had a career to save," she snapped. "And you know your family, your father especially, would have forced me into a life I didn't want if he'd found out about the pregnancy. Harrington heirs must be raised properly. As if I'd have no say. No thanks. I wasn't about to become some obedient wife just so your parents could parade our child like a family trophy." A stunned silence. Then Daniel's voice quieter. "You decided everything alone. You never even asked if I wanted to be a father. You robbed me of 4 years with them, Vanessa." "How do you think I felt raising them on my own?" she retorted, voice tremulous. "I didn't get the luxury of choosing whether or not I'd be a mother. It was me, day and night." His laugh was short, humorless. "Day and night? How often have you been here in the last 2 years? The nanny, Olivia, has been carrying the weight." Olivia winced upstairs, hearing her name dropped into this fight. The children, engrossed in their cartoon, didn't notice her tension. She swallowed, feeling a swirl of conflicting loyalties. In the living room, Vanessa's tone turned defensive. "My job demanded sacrifices. I gave the children the best I could, this house, a good nanny, financial stability. Could you offer them what I did? Weren't you off in Singapore or London making deals with your father's corporation?" "That was before I knew," Daniel said, and the anger in his voice warred with sorrow. "Once I realized those 2 angels were mine, everything changed, Vanessa. I want to be part of their lives. I want to do it properly, not as some secret visitor. I'm prepared to go to court if you fight me on this." Vanessa let out a trembling sigh. "They're my children. You're not taking them away." "I'm not trying to take them away," he insisted. "I want shared custody, or at least a structured arrangement. I'm entitled to that, legally and morally. Don't turn this into a battle. I don't want the children to suffer any more than they already have." Silence. Then a rustle, as if Vanessa sank into a chair. "And what if they don't want you around?" she asked, but her voice lacked conviction. "They barely know you." "From what I see, they're already eager to have me," he said softly. "That's not an attack on you. They need their dad." Upstairs, Olivia clenched her fists at her sides, heart pounding. She was relieved to hear Daniel clarify he didn't want a bitter fight, but she sensed Vanessa's fear too. A life of independence, carefully curated, was crumbling now that Daniel had returned. And the children were so smitten with their father. Would it upend their routine if they started dividing time between parents? She checked on the twins. Lucas picked up on her anxiety, turning to ask, "Is everything okay, Olivia?" She offered him a reassuring half-smile. "They're just grown-ups talking, sweetie. You know how that can be." Downstairs, voices dropped, replaced by measured sentences Olivia couldn't fully catch. She sighed, knowing she should rejoin them soon. Vanessa might need her as a buffer. More importantly, the children deserved clarity, not just tension in separate rooms. A quick glance at the clock, 8:20. 10 minutes left of the mother's imposed limit. She patted Sophia's head and guided them to stand. "Let's go see if Mommy and Daddy are done talking, okay?" Their eyes lit up at the mention of Daddy, and they trooped down carefully. In the living room, the atmosphere felt thick, but Daniel's shoulders relaxed when he saw the children bound in. Vanessa stood near the fireplace, arms folded, mask of calm back in place. Daniel opened his arms with a grin that belied the heavy conversation they'd just had. "You guys want a good night hug before I head out?" he asked, voice gentle. The twins scrambled into his embrace. With them pressed against his sides, he shot Vanessa a look. "I plan to see them again soon," he said firmly, "and next time I'd like more than 30 minutes. Vanessa gave a curt nod, not quite meeting his eyes. "We'll discuss a schedule," she allowed, as though the mere act of acknowledging him grated on her. Olivia watched Daniel's face soften at that small concession. He planted quick kisses on each child's forehead. "Be good," he whispered. "I'll see you very soon." Lucas beamed. "You promise?" "Absolutely." Daniel gently ruffled the boy's hair. "I promise." With that, he stood and thanked Olivia for her help. She handed him his jacket, wishing she could say something supportive. But the tension in Vanessa's presence was palpable, so Olivia only managed a polite smile. Then Daniel turned and walked out the door. The children pressed their faces to the window, watching as he drove away under the glow of a street lamp. Vanessa turned away, retreating to the kitchen where she downed a glass of water and stared at the sink as though it were a portal to another world. "Time for bed," Olivia said gently to the children, voice subdued. They followed her upstairs, still brimming with questions about when Daddy would come back. Could they go to the park again? Could he read them a bedtime story next time? Olivia nodded, hoping to quell their chatter, tucking them in and promising they'd figure it all out. Downstairs, Vanessa flicked off lights, leaving only the living room lamp glowing softly. The mother of two stood in silence, grappling with the magnitude of what she'd set in motion by allowing Daniel a foothold in their lives again. Tomorrow, everything would inch closer to a new reality. Shared custody discussions, rearranged schedules, lawyers possibly stepping in if they couldn't agree. And overshadowing it all was a fragile question. Could the twins thrive amid these sweeping changes, or would they be pulled in two directions? Olivia finished tucking the children in, then paused in the doorway of their bedroom, listening to their steady breathing. She couldn't ignore the pit of worry deep in her own stomach. She was only the nanny, yet she was the one who spent most of the day with them. If Vanessa and Daniel clashed too fiercely, where would that leave her? The children? Could they find a path that honored everyone's place? She headed downstairs to find Vanessa in the dimly lit living room, leaning against the back of the sofa, eyes distant. Sensing Olivia's approach, Vanessa spoke softly without turning around. "He wants to see them again in 2 days," she said. "After the fiasco in the park, I don't think I can argue they don't want him. But I told him we'll need to talk to a mediator or something." Olivia nodded, stepping closer but keeping a respectful distance. "That might be wise," she agreed. "Setting clear boundaries could help avoid confusion for the kids." Vanessa released a bitter laugh. "Clear boundaries indeed. Maybe it's too late for that." A pause. I can't lose them." I won't let him think he can swoop in and be the hero. Nobody wants to take them away from you, Olivia said gently. They love you. You're their mother. He can't replace that, but he can be part of their lives in a healthy way. Vanessa's jaw tightened. For a moment, she looked as though she wanted to snap a retort about loyalty or remind Olivia of her place. But instead, she sighed heavily, shoulders sagging. We'll see, was all she said. We'll see what tomorrow brings. With that, she turned off the last lamp and disappeared up the stairs, leaving Olivia alone in the dusk of the living room, the faint moonlight shining through the curtains. A swirl of hope and anxiety laced Olivia's thoughts. Tonight had been just the first spark in what could become a raging fire, and the children's well-being lay at the heart of it. She exhaled, remembering the looks on their faces, that pure joy when Daniel came in. They'd found their father, and it seemed nothing would stop the truth from reshaping this family for better or for worse. Você disse, yes, twins' unexpected reunion with Father Pensu por 3 Mehmet 11s, Section 510. 2 mornings later, a thin layer of early fog clung to the quiet residential street where Vanessa's home stood, adding a hushed stillness to the world beyond the windows. Olivia stirred awake in her small bedroom on the 2nd floor, originally a spare room turned nanny's quarters, feeling the weight of an unspoken countdown. Today was the day Daniel had asked to visit again, and once more both curiosity and dread hovered in every corner of the house. Down the hall, the twins' giggles fluttered under their bedroom door. Olivia's heart warmed. At least for them, happiness didn't yet hinge on the tensions unfolding. She straightened her hair, donned a comfortable sweater, and made her way to their room. They were up and dressed, ready to greet the day with wide-eyed excitement. "Olivia!" Sophia exclaimed, her pajamas long replaced by a bright pink sundress. "We're going to see Daddy after breakfast, right?" Lucas, wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with cartoon dinosaurs, bobbed his head vigorously. "He said so. He promised." Olivia knelt down, a fleeting pang of concern twisting in her gut. "He did promise," she confirmed quietly, hugging them both. "But let's remember, your mommy also wants to talk to him. Grown-ups have a lot to sort out, so we'll see how it all goes." Her words set off a flurry of questions from the children, ranging from, "Will we feed ducks again?" to, "Does Daddy like dinosaurs?" She did her best to answer calmly, trying not to let her own uncertainty show. Then she shepherded them down to the kitchen where the morning routine awaited. Cereal bowls, fruit juice, and the hopeful buzz of a new day. Vanessa was already there, impeccably dressed in tailored pants and a crisp blouse. She sipped a black coffee, phone in her other hand, checking messages with a pinched expression. "Good morning," she murmured to the children, offering Olivia a terse nod. The kids launched into chatter about their father's impending visit, prompting Vanessa to gesture for silence. "Eat first," she said, turning away to type out a text. Her cold exterior seemed even more pronounced today, as if bracing for another confrontation. Olivia went about fixing breakfast and ensuring the twins ate properly, but inside she felt a gentle swell of pity for Vanessa. Behind that guarded facade was a woman who had spent years controlling every facet of her life, now forced to cede some power to the father she'd deliberately excluded. When the clock hit mid-morning, Vanessa announced she'd be working from her upstairs office for a couple of hours before Daniel arrived. "Keep them in the backyard or something," she instructed Olivia before walking off. "And make sure they don't wander off." Nodding, Olivia ushered the children outside. A crisp breeze rustled the trees, carrying the scent of dew. She spread a blanket on the small patch of lawn so they could color or play quietly. Lucas soon became absorbed in a toy dinosaur battle, while Sophia drew hearts and rainbows on construction paper. Yet, the topic of Daddy was never far from their minds. Lucas asked if Daniel knew about his dinosaur collection and if he'd want to see it. Sophia wondered aloud if Daniel would stay for lunch or if he might tuck them in for a nap. Olivia, aware that Vanessa hadn't clarified Daniel's exact plan, gently reminded them that he could only stay for a while. "He might just pop in to talk and spend some time," she said, choosing her words carefully. "Let's not be upset if he can't stay too long." By noon, the sun had burned off the fog, leaving the yard bright and pleasantly warm. Olivia glanced toward the house, suspecting Vanessa would soon emerge, either with new instructions or a fretful update, but instead, the back door remained closed. The twins, hungry, asked if they could have lunch outside. Olivia set out simple sandwiches and fruit on plastic plates, and they all ate under a shady spot, the children laughing at their own jokes and nibbling carrot sticks. In these moments, Olivia tried to savor the innocence the twins possessed, before any legal tangles or parental arguments might disrupt their simple joys. She listened to them giggle about duck bread and Dino roars, wishing she could preserve this bubble of calm. Finally, at around 2 o'clock, Vanessa appeared at the back door, her face bearing that familiar tightness. "He texted," she announced. "He'll be here at 3. He says he wants to discuss something important with me and also spend time with the children." Her gaze flitted to Olivia. "We'll all be in the living room. I want you to keep the kids occupied but remain close by. I still don't trust him not to start making grand promises he can't keep." Olivia nodded, swallowing her unease. Her role, once just caring for 2 adorable youngsters, now included navigating an emotional minefield between 2 embattled parents. At 2:55, Olivia brought Lucas and Sophia into the living room, tidying stray toys and patting the sofa cushions. Vanessa perched on an armchair, posture rigid, foot tapping the floor with a quiet, anxious rhythm. The children wore shining, eager expressions. 5 minutes seemed to stretch into ages. Then the doorbell chimed. Vanessa's head snapped up, and she shot Olivia a meaningful look, as if to say, "Get ready." She rose, smoothed her blouse, and marched to the door. Daniel stepped in, similarly tense in posture, yet managing a small smile the instant he saw the twins bounding up. "Daddy!" they chorused. He bent to receive their hugs, arms encircling them in a gentle squeeze. Olivia realized how naturally he did this now, as if those 4 missing years were gradually mending with each embrace. "Wow, it's good to see you both," Daniel said, ruffling Lucas's hair. He glanced at Olivia with gratitude, then rested his eyes on Vanessa. "Thanks for letting me come again." Vanessa offered a clipped nod, gesturing him into the living room. "Shall we sit? The children are excited, clearly. But you said there was something we needed to discuss," he exhaled, nodding. "Yes." Leading the way, he guided Lucas and Sophia to the couch. Then he gently slipped from their grasp. "Before we play or talk too long, your mom and I need a minute alone, all right?" He gave the children an apologetic look. "We'll only be in the next room." Their faces fell slightly, but Olivia intervened. "Hey, remember that puzzle you started this morning?" she asked, turning to Lucas. "You never finished it, and we've got crayons and coloring pages if you want to show Daddy when he's done talking." "That's right," Daniel agreed. "I can't wait to see what you draw." He watched them settle down with crayons, then signaled Vanessa to follow him into the adjacent sitting room, a small, cozy space off the main living area. Olivia stayed behind with the children, hearing only the faint murmur of voices from beyond the partially closed door. Sophia crawled onto the sofa, humming to herself while coloring a picture of a man, woman, and 2 kids all holding hands, clearly their family as she hoped it would be. Meanwhile, Lucas busied himself with a dinosaur puzzle, though his eyes flicked to the sitting room door every few moments, as though half listening for raised voices. Olivia hovered in the background, her heart beating fast. She glimpsed silhouettes through the crack in the door, Daniel and Vanessa standing face to face. She could catch low tones, but not every word. Occasionally, Vanessa's voice spiked, then softened. Daniel's inflection shifted between frustration and coaxing calm. Olivia guessed they were hashing out specifics, things like how often he could visit, whether overnight stays were possible, what part of the twins' daily routine he could share. With each minute, the children's excitement to show Daddy their art grew. Sophia finished her drawing, a bright, happy scene, and beamed at Olivia. "Do you think he'll like it?" she asked, eyes shining. "I'm sure he will," Olivia whispered, smiling fondly, touched by the hope in the little girl's voice. Finally, after what felt like an hour but was likely only 20 minutes, the sitting room door opened. Daniel emerged first, looking grave but resolute. Vanessa followed, arms crossed. She wore the expression of someone who had conceded a point grudgingly. Without waiting, the twins bounced up. "Daddy, look what I made!" Sophia chirped, holding up her picture. Lucas pointed eagerly at his half-finished puzzle, asking Daniel to help complete it. Daniel's gaze softened immediately. He joined them on the floor, praising Sophia's artwork and helping Lucas find puzzle pieces. For a moment, all tension drained from the space. Vanessa stood by the wall, silent, though her eyes flicked over Daniel's interactions, perhaps assessing if he'd hold up his end of whatever agreement they'd just forged. As he clicked a final puzzle piece into place, Daniel glanced at Vanessa, then turned back to the children. "Hey, we have some news," he began, voice gentle. "Your mommy and I have decided I get to spend more time with you soon, okay?" "Really?" Lucas's eyes lit up. Sophia bounced in place. "Like the park again?" "Yes, the park. And maybe even dinner sometimes," Daniel continued, though he shot Vanessa a look as if seeking permission to say more. She gave a curt nod, so he went on. "I'll come a couple of evenings a week, or we might do an outing on the weekend. We're working out the details, but we want to make sure it's fair and that you both are comfortable." The children exchanged excited glances, launching into a barrage of wishes: zoo visits, amusement parks, family movie nights. Daniel listened with a soft grin, though Olivia saw his face flicker with remorse, possibly mourning the years he missed. Vanessa stepped forward, folding her arms in a posture of reluctant acquiescence. "We're going to try a schedule," she explained. "Nothing set in stone yet, but for now Daniel will visit twice a week here in the home, plus potentially one weekend outing a month." She glanced at the twins. "Mommy will also be there, at least in the beginning, to make sure everything goes smoothly." Lucas paused, digesting this. He turned to Daniel, voice hopeful. "Does that mean you'll see me do my dinosaur show and tell at preschool?" Daniel looked at Vanessa, who answered stiffly, "We'll see. One step at a time." A hush settled. Then Daniel clapped his hands lightly, trying to keep the energy upbeat. "So," he said, "how about we play a game right now before I go? We have some time, don't we?" Vanessa checked her watch. "He can stay until 5, kids," she allowed. "So about an hour." The twins, overjoyed, immediately dragged Daniel to the toy bin, chattering about which board game to play first. Olivia quietly eased back, mind whirling with relief that a tentative agreement was in place, and concern about how stable that agreement really was. In the next hour, the living room filled with giggles and the clack of dice rolling. Daniel, ignoring any stiffness, dived into the children's world wholeheartedly. He let Lucas climb on his back to pretend he was a dinosaur, and he applauded Sophia's improvised dance show. The mother, perched on a chair with a veneer of detachment, occasionally offered faint smiles or corrections. Every so often, her eyes would slide to Olivia, as if reinforcing the order to keep an eye on things. Time flew by in a near blur. Soon, 5 o'clock approached. Daniel gently announced he had to leave, meeting each child's protest with a promise. "I'll come again on Thursday. We'll have dinner and I'll bring dessert. How's that?" Squeals of delight followed. He hugged them both, then straightened up, clearing his throat as he faced Vanessa. "Thanks," he said quietly, though an undercurrent of tension lingered in the word. Vanessa gave a brisk nod, ushering him to the door. "Let's keep the schedule we discussed," she reminded him, her tone carrying finality. "Any changes, we talk first. Understood?" Yes, Daniel agreed. He pulled on his jacket and offered Olivia a polite smile. Thank you again for taking care of them. Olivia smiled warmly. Of course. Despite everything, she felt glad to see him forging a bond with the kids. Drive safe. With that, Daniel disappeared into the dusky evening. The twins raced to the window, waving wildly as his car backed out of the driveway. They kept waving until his taillights vanished down the street, their cheeks flushed with excitement. Vanessa, leaning against the doorframe, sighed audibly. Olivia glimpsed something unsettled in her eyes, a complex mixture of relief, jealousy, and perhaps deep-seated apprehension. The mother closed the door, then turned to the children, putting on a faint smile. All right, time for dinner, yes? Olivia, can you— Already on it, Olivia interjected calmly. I'll make something simple. The children bounded away, chattering about how Daddy might like pizza next time. Vanessa stared after them, then slowly retreated to the kitchen table, sinking into a chair. For once, the tension in her face eased slightly. They truly adore him, she muttered. It's so quick. I didn't expect that. They've always wondered about him, Olivia offered, soft-voiced. Children have a powerful capacity for love, especially when it's someone they feel connected to. Vanessa swallowed, nodding. Let's hope this arrangement works out better than I fear, she murmured, drumming her fingers on the table. She glanced at Olivia. We'll finalize details with a mediator if needed, but for now, let's just see. Olivia understood. For all her frostiness, Vanessa was grappling with a shaken reality that Daniel, once pushed out of the picture, was now reclaiming a place. Even so, he had only scratched the surface of fatherhood after years of absence. They didn't speak further. Olivia prepared dinner as instructed, helping the children set the table. Even though Daniel had gone, his presence lingered in the house, like a new gravitational force drawing the family into an unfamiliar orbit. Lucas bubbled about his puzzle triumph. Sophia showed off her drawing to her mother, and in that moment, their hearts brimmed with possibilities rather than divisions. As the sun lowered on the horizon, painting the sky in muted pinks and purples, Olivia found herself hoping that, just maybe, the fragile truce between Vanessa and Daniel would hold. For the children's sake, she prayed there might be a path where everyone could stand together, flawed yet committed, each learning what it meant to share in love and responsibility. But a small voice of caution reminded her that not all changes go smoothly, especially when pride, secrets, and old wounds are in the mix. She prepared the children's plates, forcing a quiet smile. Tonight had gone well enough, but tomorrow's unknowns still loomed. In the days to come, any misstep, any flare of resentment could shatter the tenuous harmony they'd begun to build. Você disse, yes, Section 610, pensou por 4M29's Section 610. The next few days brought a calm so delicate, Olivia worried it might shatter at any moment. Vanessa and Daniel stuck to their fledgling agreement, arranging short evening visits where Daniel would spend time with Lucas and Sophia under Vanessa's watchful eye. Although tension still simmered, Vanessa seldom left the room and Daniel carefully avoided challenging her authority. Something akin to a routine began to form. Tuesday evening, Daniel arrived with a small bag of groceries, insisting on cooking dinner for everyone. At first, Vanessa looked ready to protest, but the twins squealed so excitedly that she gave in, stepping aside with a sigh. Olivia helped him navigate the kitchen, rummaging for pots and pans while Daniel chopped vegetables. Through it all, the children buzzed around, showing him the pictures they had drawn that day, seeking his approval at every turn. When the meal was served, simple pasta, tossed salad, and garlic bread, Vanessa offered a polite nod, tasting Daniel's cooking with a skeptical air. But as soon as Lucas declared it was the best dinner ever, some of her frosty demeanor thawed. For a moment, it almost felt like a normal family dinner. The children shared stories from preschool. Daniel talked about a recent business meeting. Even Vanessa chimed in occasionally, noting an upcoming project at her own company. Olivia hung in the background, quietly refilling water glasses and taking mental snapshots of this rare, peaceful scene. But cracks inevitably showed. When Daniel casually asked if he could pick the twins up from school the next day, Vanessa stiffened, setting down her fork mid-bite. "Let's not rush," she replied, voice clipped. "We agreed for now you'd visit here. I'm not comfortable handing them over to you outside my supervision." Though Daniel nodded, a flicker of frustration flashed in his eyes. The children, too young to grasp the nuances, caught the sudden tension and fell silent. Just as quickly as dinner had felt harmonious, the hush revealed that underlying conflicts were far from resolved. After Daniel left that night, Vanessa retreated to her office for an impromptu conference call. Olivia tucked the children into bed, trying to keep their spirits high. They peppered her with questions about when Daddy might take them to the park again, or if he could come for breakfast instead of dinner. She promised to pass along their wishes, kissing their foreheads, but a low ache of uncertainty settled in her own heart, wondering how much control Daniel or the twins truly had in this carefully monitored arrangement. As the week inched forward, a pattern emerged. Daniel visited for 2 or 3 hours in the evenings. Sometimes he brought board games, other times he read bedtime stories. He never arrived empty-handed, whether it was cookies, fresh fruit, or a craft kit. He made sure the children felt his presence. He even proposed scheduling special homework sessions, though the twins were still in preschool and had little more than coloring assignments. Vanessa hovered near every interaction, occasionally reminding Daniel not to spoil them, or cautioning the children against making unrealistic requests of their father. Yet each time Daniel calmly deferred, not wanting to escalate a fight. Olivia suspected he was patiently playing the long game, proving himself dependable until Vanessa lowered her guard. And indeed, by week's end, the mother seemed marginally less tense. She no longer shadowed Daniel's every move in the house, allowing short intervals where he was alone with the children in the backyard. It wasn't freedom, but it was progress. In the midst of these changes, life marched on. The twins had a preschool field trip to a nearby nature center. Olivia accompanied them as usual, helping chaperone a small group of energetic 4-year-olds. It was a sunny afternoon, the children aglow with excitement over spotting birds and squirrels. Yet Lucas couldn't resist asking if his daddy might show up as a surprise. Olivia explained Daniel didn't know about the trip. Vanessa hadn't allowed him that information, and tried to mask her own discomfort. The small heartbreak in Lucas's eyes lingered with Olivia. She wished the parents could unite for these milestones without the tangle of power struggles. Sophia, less vocal but equally hopeful, whispered at one point, "Maybe next time Daddy can come." Right, Olivia? It took all of Olivia's composure to smile and say, "I hope so, sweetie." That Friday, Vanessa informed Olivia that she had a sudden business conference over the weekend. "I'll be gone Saturday morning to Sunday evening," she said, rummaging for her suitcase. "I need you to stay overnight with the children, obviously." Olivia nodded, heart pounding. She guessed Daniel might ask to see the twins in Vanessa's absence. While the mother's rules had been explicit, no visits unless Vanessa was present. Olivia wondered if that might change now that Vanessa's schedule was forcing her out of town. Her suspicion proved correct soon enough. That evening, Daniel called Olivia's cell phone while Vanessa was busy packing upstairs. Initially surprised, Olivia answered in hushed tones. "Mr. Harrington?" "Olivia, hi," he said. "I realized Vanessa will be out of town. The kids mentioned it, and I confirmed with her briefly on text. She said absolutely no visits while she's away, but—" His sigh came through the line. "I wanted to know if you'd be comfortable letting me stop by maybe Saturday afternoon just to see them for a bit. I won't cause trouble, I promise. I just don't want to miss the entire weekend without them." Olivia's stomach tightened. She knew how Vanessa felt about unsupervised visits. I'm not sure," she began quietly. She was very clear about her rules. If she found out— I know, he interjected, but I'm their father, and I want to spend time with them. I don't want them feeling abandoned the moment she steps away. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal or unethical. Just let me come for an hour or two. I'll keep things calm. She hesitated, torn between empathy for his heartfelt request and the knowledge that it could violate Vanessa's explicit directive. Then she imagined the twins' faces if they realized their dad was in town but didn't come. "Let me think," she said at last. "Maybe if we do something simple, like a walk in the neighborhood." "Anything," he agreed quickly. "A walk, a short drive. I'll keep it discreet. Just, please." Olivia's heart squeezed. "I'll text you in the morning, okay? I need to see how the children are, and if this feels safe." Daniel's sigh of relief was audible. "Thank you. Truly. I won't push if it puts you in a bad spot." They hung up. Olivia stood by the kitchen counter, phone in hand, pulse throbbing. She could easily say no, obey Vanessa's rule, avoid any risk. But the twins would be thrilled to see their dad, especially on a day their mother was away. Was it so wrong to let them share a moment of normalcy? All week, she'd watched them sparkle in Daniel's presence. Upstairs, Vanessa stomped around, gathering suits and files. She paused at the top of the stairway. "Olivia," she called, "I need you to confirm the children's schedule for tomorrow. Make sure they have clean clothes for Sunday. Some family is dropping by in the evening." "Yes, ma'am," Olivia answered softly, composing herself. She forced her mind to focus on the immediate tasks, though Daniel's request lingered like a secret, burning at the edges of her thoughts. By Saturday morning, Vanessa had left before dawn in a sleek taxi, barely saying goodbye to the kids. When the twins woke, they found a quick note. "Mommy's out for work. Listen to Olivia. I'll be back Sunday." Sophia seemed more disappointed than usual, likely expecting a last hug or a promise. Lucas shrugged it off, shifting his excitement to the possibility of Daddy's visit. Olivia felt torn as she supervised breakfast. Should she even hint that Daniel might stop by? She ultimately decided not to say anything until she'd settled her own conscience. After cleaning up the cereal bowls, she eyed the children playing in the living room. They were content, but clearly missing some sense of family togetherness. Their mother was gone, their father not allowed without permission. She sighed, stepping into the hallway to send Daniel a quick text. "Can you come around 2 p.m.? Maybe we just stay here in the backyard or go for a walk. The children don't expect it yet. Keep it low-key." A reply buzzed in less than a minute. "Thank you. I promise to respect boundaries. See you at 2. Despite her anxiety, Olivia couldn't deny the surge of relief. She spent the rest of the morning tending to house chores, occasionally breaking to join the twins in a puzzle or a short cartoon session. Around lunchtime, she grew restless, tidying surfaces and rechecking the windows as if preparing for a guest she wasn't entirely sure she should host. The children, sensing her energy, asked if something special was happening, but she diverted them with jokes. Finally, at precisely 2 p.m., the doorbell chimed. Olivia's heart leapt. She glanced at the kids. Lucas was in mid-giggle, tossing a plush dinosaur in the air, while Sophia was coloring. "Could you both wait in the living room for a second?" she asked. "I'll get the door." When she opened it, Daniel stood there, casually dressed in jeans and a light sweater, his car parked discreetly down the block. He wore an apologetic smile. "Hey," he murmured. "Thank you again." Olivia nodded, stepping aside to let him in. "Just, let's keep it calm," she whispered. "I don't want to betray Vanessa's trust more than we already are." He nodded gravely. "Understood." A second later, the children spotted him from the living room. "Daddy!" Sophia cried, rushing over with Lucas at her heels. Surprise and glee lit their eyes. "What are you doing here?" Lucas asked, bounding into Daniel's arms. Daniel chuckled, lifting the boy. "I just wanted to see you two, is that okay?" Sophia beamed. "Yes, yes!" They led him excitedly through the house, showing off recent drawings, talking a mile a minute about their morning. Olivia followed, adrenaline humming beneath her composure. She prayed the short visit would be enough to brighten the twins' day without inciting trouble if Vanessa found out. For the next hour, they stayed in the backyard, playing a game of tag. Daniel easily let the children climb on him for a playful piggyback. Every so often, Olivia saw him glance at her as if to confirm, "This is still all right?" She'd respond with a small nod, though her nerves remained on edge. Around 3:30, they took a leisurely walk to the corner park, Daniel holding both children's hands while Olivia trailed closely. Neighbors might not think twice of the scene. A father, a nanny, two happy kids. But for Olivia, each passing car brought a jolt of dread. What if it was someone who knew Vanessa or reported back to her? At the park, the children insisted on playing on the swings while Daniel pushed them. Their laughter soared with each gentle arc. In that moment, they looked like any ordinary family enjoying a Saturday afternoon, free from constraints. Olivia hovered near the park bench, anxious yet touched by the sheer happiness on the twins' faces. She could see Daniel's eyes shine with pride and heartbreak all at once, no doubt realizing how many simple joys he had missed over the years. After half an hour, clouds gathered overhead, signaling an approaching drizzle. Olivia urged them to head back to the house. She didn't want to risk drawing too much attention, and the children had already burned plenty of energy. Inside, as they settled in the living room, the twins begged for one last story. Daniel agreed, picking a picture book from their shelf. He read it with expression, earning giggles at the silly voices he used for each character. When he reached the final page, he paused, voice faltering as the story's theme, family reunions and second chances, hit a little too close to home. He closed the book softly, glancing at the clock. It was nearing 5 p.m. "I'd better go," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "Your mommy will be back tomorrow, and I don't want her to worry." Lucas and Sophia clung to him, reluctance clear in their eyes. "Are you sure you have to leave?" Sophia asked, pouting. "We didn't even show you our new dance moves." He gave them each a warm squeeze. "Next time, you can show me everything," he promised. Then he looked at Olivia, a silent gratitude in his expression. "Thank you," he murmured. "I'll get out of your hair now." She walked him to the door, quietly reminding him to keep the visit between them. "Vanessa." "She made it clear no unsupervised visits," Olivia said softly. "If she finds out, it might complicate things further. I'm not sure how she'll react." Daniel's face clouded momentarily. "I understand," he replied. "I won't make trouble for you. I just hope that soon I won't need permission slips to spend time with my own kids." With a last wave to the children, Daniel stepped onto the porch and disappeared down the sidewalk. Olivia closed the door, her stomach in knots. The children, oblivious to the weight of the situation, gleefully recounted the day's fun. She mustered a smile, playing along, wondering if she had crossed a line that would haunt her later. The weekend evening wore on with dinner and bedtime routines. In the quiet hush after the twins were asleep, Olivia sat alone in the living room, replaying Daniel's clandestine visit in her mind. She desperately hoped no one would inform Vanessa. She prayed it had been the right call, giving father and children a precious afternoon. But a voice in her head whispered that secrets rarely remain hidden forever, and the delicate peace she was trying to maintain could crumble with a single phone call or chance encounter. If that happened, who would Vanessa blame? Olivia swallowed hard, bracing for tomorrow's uncertainty, determined to cherish the children's happiness for as long as she could. Você disse, yes, solicitação de O1 Promode. Terminou de refletir, section 710. Sunday morning arrived with golden sunlight filtering through the upstairs windows, promising a peaceful conclusion to the weekend. Or so Olivia hoped. After a quiet Saturday evening, she found the twins in bright spirits, chattering about their secret playtime with Daniel. As much as she was relieved that their father's clandestine visit had brought them joy, she couldn't shake an uneasy feeling that danger lurked just beneath the surface of that secrecy. Vanessa was set to return later that afternoon, and Olivia worried that even the slightest hint about Daniel's presence might spark a storm. She tried to keep the children occupied in harmless activities, a round of drawing after breakfast, then a quick trip to the backyard to pick some flowers. At one point, Lucas tugged at her sleeve, blurting, "When's Daddy coming again?" The direct question made her heart stumble. She forced a gentle smile. "He'll visit soon, sweetie, but let's wait until your mom is home, okay?" Lucas seemed satisfied for the moment, but the glow in both children's eyes was now firmly connected to the idea of having their father around whenever they pleased, a desire that clashed with Vanessa's controlled approach. By late morning, the phone in Vanessa's office rang. Olivia hesitated, then rushed to answer. Vanessa often directed calls through her home line. To Olivia's relief, it was only one of Vanessa's co-workers confirming flight details. Yet that conversation stirred her awareness of time. Soon, the mother would walk through the door, and any unguarded mention of the father's Saturday visit could unravel everything. Meanwhile, the children, full of weekend energy, suggested a walk to the local bakery. That meant stepping out into the neighborhood again. Olivia hesitated. The memory of Daniel's subtle presence in the park made her skittish. But the twins were restless, and a brief outing might expend their extra enthusiasm before Vanessa arrived. She bundled them up for a short trek, light sweaters to ward off the lingering morning chill, and guided them outside. The bakery was only a few blocks away, located near a small row of shops. The air was brisk and clean, the sidewalk lined with families and couples out enjoying their Sunday. Sophia hummed as she skipped. Lucas pointed out every dog they passed. Olivia tried to relax, breathing in the sweet aroma wafting from the bakery vents. When they reached the entrance, the children pressed their hands and noses to the glass display, marveling at frosted cupcakes and freshly baked croissants. Olivia let them each choose a small treat, feeling somewhat indulgent. It was worth it, seeing their delighted faces as they sipped milk and nibbled pastries at one of the bakery's tiny tables by the window. Halfway through, Olivia sensed a presence behind her. She glanced over her shoulder and spotted a familiar neighbor, Mrs. Gallagher, a chatty retiree who often exchanged small talk with Vanessa. The older woman wore an inquisitive look and sidled closer. "Olivia, my dear, out with the little ones on a Sunday?" she greeted pleasantly, leaning down to pat Sophia's shoulder. "And where's their mama today?" Trying to keep her tone light, Olivia explained, "Vanessa's traveling for work. We're just grabbing a snack." Mrs. Gallagher nodded, lips pursed. Her bright eyes flicked from Lucas to Sophia. "They look thrilled," she commented. "I heard all about a certain visitor at your house yesterday. A man, tall, good-looking. Someone said they spotted him walking with you and the children around the block." Olivia's stomach clenched. She fought to maintain composure. "Oh? Well, a friend of the family stopped by." Carefully, she tapped the table. "He just wanted to say hello." The neighbor nodded in that knowing way. I see, she said, her voice thick with curiosity. "Well, be sure to let Vanessa know we all keep an eye out in this neighborhood, especially for the kids." With a polite smile, Mrs. Gallagher said her farewells and bustled off, leaving Olivia's heart pounding. If casual chatter like that spread, and someone else told Vanessa about Daniel's unapproved visit, there could be repercussions. The children, oblivious, continued savoring their pastries. Olivia swiftly paid the bill, eager to retreat to the safety of home. They arrived back around noon to find the house still empty. The kids helped Olivia set up a simple lunch in the kitchen, their mood brightened by sweet treats and the lingering memory of fun with their father. Yet each tick of the clock raked Olivia's nerves a bit more. Around 2 p.m., the sound of a car pulling up alerted her that Vanessa had arrived. She hurried to the living room, instructing the children to greet their mom politely. Vanessa entered with her suitcase in tow, her expression unreadable. She looked travel-weary, dark circles under her eyes, hair pinned up hastily. But it wasn't exhaustion that made Olivia's pulse jump. It was a certain sharpness in Vanessa's gaze, as if she already suspected something amiss. "Mommy!" Lucas and Sophia ran up, hugging her legs. She bent down to kiss them each on the forehead, forcing a small smile. "Hi, my loves. Were you good for Olivia?" They nodded vigorously, each trying to share bits of news about their weekend. Olivia braced herself, hoping they wouldn't mention Daniel's secret visit. But children have a way of blurting out truths. Sure enough, Sophia chirped, "We had so much fun at the park yesterday." Vanessa offered a neutral, "That's nice," then shot Olivia a glance that seemed more like a question. The park? She didn't ask verbally, so Olivia chose to remain silent. Vanessa slipped upstairs to freshen up, instructing Olivia to keep the kids busy in the living room. Yet after only a few minutes the mother returned, face set in a tight line. In her hand was her phone. She gestured for Olivia to step aside. "A word?" she said, her tone leaving no room for refusal. Olivia guided the twins to a cartoon on TV, then followed Vanessa into the foyer. The mother whirled around, voice low. "Were you out walking with Daniel yesterday while I was gone?" She held up her phone, indicating a string of messages. "I just heard from a friend that she saw him, or at least someone who fits his description, with the children in our neighborhood." Olivia's stomach dropped. She'd known this was a possibility, but it still felt like a punch. She tried to keep her voice calm. He did come by, only for a short while," she admitted quietly. "He loves them, Vanessa. He wanted to see them. I felt it was harmless if we just stayed close to home." "Harmless?" Vanessa's eyes flashed anger. "You mean behind my back, directly against my instructions? You allowed him to be alone with them?" "It wasn't exactly alone," Olivia protested, her own voice trembling. "I was with them. He didn't do anything reckless. He just wanted time with the children." Vanessa cut the air with her hand. "That's not the point. I explicitly said no visits without me present. I trusted you to follow that. And now half the neighborhood is gossiping. It undermines my authority completely. Don't you see?" "I understand you're upset," Olivia said, her cheeks burning. "But you've limited his contact so much, and he's their father. The children were thrilled to see him. I thought it would do no harm. They just played in the park." Vanessa's posture turned rigid, her fists clenched by her sides. "That's not your decision to make. You work for me, Olivia. If I say no, it means no. If you can't respect that boundary, then perhaps I need a nanny who will." Fear stabbed through Olivia's chest. She parted her lips to respond, but her words tangled. She'd grown so attached to Lucas and Sophia. Losing this job would break her heart, not to mention the children's routine. But Daniel's presence mattered too. "I only want what's best for them," she managed. Vanessa glared. "Don't we all? But you're not their mother, and you don't know the full implications. Did you think about custody issues if he decides to spin this into something else? Did you think about what it might do if a neighbor reports me for leaving my kids with a nanny who invites men over? My reputation, my entire custody stance, could be compromised." A stinging wave of guilt coursed through Olivia. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I truly am. I never meant to cause trouble." Vanessa squeezed her eyes shut, inhaling shakily. "Well, we're in it now. If Daniel thinks he can bypass me whenever I'm gone, we have a serious problem. I'll deal with him. Believe me, I will. For now, consider this your first and only warning, Olivia. Pull a stunt like that again and you're gone. Understood?" She nodded stiffly, tears threatening to surface. Her mind spun with alarm, sadness, and an odd anger at the mother's intransigence, but she had no leverage. "Understood," she echoed, voice barely audible. Vanessa stepped back, exhaling. She ran a hand over her temple as though battling a headache. "I have 1,000 things to finalize tonight. Don't mention any of this to the children, obviously. I don't want them upset." She paused, leveling a pointed look. You'll remain my employee, but we need boundaries. No more unsanctioned visits. No more lying by omission. Is that clear?" Olivia swallowed, forcing a nod. Crystal clear. With that, Vanessa turned on her heel and moved toward the staircase, presumably to drop her suitcase in the bedroom. A thick silence hovered in the foyer. Outside, the sun shone through the windows as though mocking the tension inside. Olivia took a moment to gather her composure, inhaling to calm her racing heart. She finally made her way back to the living room, where the twins were still absorbed in their cartoon. Sophia noticed Olivia's pale face and asked, "Is something wrong?" Olivia mustered a tight smile and shook her head. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Mommy just needed to talk about grown-up stuff." But inside, Olivia's spirit felt shaken. Her job was on the line, and so was the delicate balance of the children's relationship with their father. She pictured Daniel's hopeful smile when playing with the kids in the backyard, and Vanessa's furious gaze upon discovering their secret. The two realities collided in her mind like colliding waves, threatening to pull the twins under if not handled with extreme caution. Trying to regain a sense of normalcy, Olivia settled on the sofa, beckoning Lucas and Sophia closer. She switched the TV to a nature documentary, hoping the soothing narration might calm her swirling thoughts. The children snuggled on either side of her, as if they sensed the hidden turmoil behind her forced composure. That evening, the household drifted through routine motions, dinner, bath time, and bedtime stories. Yet the air felt heavy with unspoken tension. Vanessa's presence was subdued and frosty, and even the children seemed more subdued than usual. After tucking them in, Olivia retired to her small bedroom, releasing a long, shaky breath. She didn't know what the next day would bring. Perhaps Vanessa would confront Daniel or schedule a meeting with lawyers. Or maybe she would keep the fury bottled up, continuing this uneasy truce. In the quiet, Olivia stared at the ceiling, replaying Vanessa's ultimatum in her head. No more unsanctioned visits. No more secrecy. The nanny bit her lip, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. She never asked for this precarious position, juggling loyalty to her employer, empathy for the father, and above all, love for the children caught in the middle. All she could do was hope that tomorrow might offer a gentler path forward, one that didn't force her to choose sides. But the tightening knot in her stomach warned that this fragile peace might not hold forever, and the cost of any further missteps could be devastating for everyone involved. Você disse, yes, solicitação para o O1 Pro. Pensou por 3:45 Section 810. Monday dawned with a gray sky and a drizzle that pelted the windows in a steady rhythm, as though nature itself sensed the tension that had settled inside the house. Olivia rose early, her nerves still raw from Vanessa's warnings. She carefully readied the twins for preschool, helping Lucas button his jacket, ensuring Sophia's braids were neat, while Vanessa was already in her upstairs office, presumably preparing for a video conference. Ordinarily, Vanessa might be absent or hurriedly saying goodbye on a Monday morning, but today Olivia sensed a change. At about 7:30, the mother appeared in the foyer, still wearing a severe expression. She tapped her phone impatiently. "I'm going to drive them to preschool this morning," she announced curtly. Surprised, Olivia blinked. "All right?" Usually it was her job to walk the children or drive them in the family's spare car. Vanessa lowered her voice, mindful of the twins in the hallway. "I want to talk to their teacher briefly, and I'll pick them up myself later, so don't worry about the usual routine." Although it sounded like an attempt at normal parenting, Olivia suspected Vanessa sought to reassert control. "Understood," she responded. The twins were mildly excited. Mommy rarely took them to school. Sophia hopped at the idea, while Lucas prattled on about how he'd show her the class reading corner. Olivia knelt down, offering them both quick hugs. "Have a good day. I'll see you when you get back." Vanessa snapped her fingers in a businesslike manner. "Coats on, please. We need to leave." Then, with a nod toward Olivia, equal parts caution and a perfunctory goodbye, She herded the children out the front door. The click of the latch echoed in the newly emptied house. Left alone, Olivia exhaled. She tried to immerse herself in chores, wiping counters, sorting laundry. The quiet only made her mind race back to Vanessa's anger over Daniel's unapproved visit. How soon would the mother confront him, or had she already done so via phone? An hour later, the persistent rainfall cast a gloomy pall over the windows. Olivia paced, uncertain if she dared contact Daniel herself. She'd promised Vanessa no more secrets, but if Daniel reached out, she didn't want to ignore him either. Her phone, resting on the kitchen table, remained silent. Maybe Daniel sensed trouble and was keeping his distance. She felt a pang of worry that Vanessa might try to bar him from seeing the kids entirely. By midday, the quiet broke with the jangling of the doorbell. Olivia tensed, half expecting to see Daniel on the porch in defiance of everything. But when she opened the door, a professionally dressed woman in her 40s stood there, holding a folder and wearing a polite, no-nonsense expression. "Good afternoon," the woman said. "My name is Sandra Hughes. I'm a mediator. Sometimes families call me a parenting coordinator. I'm here for an appointment with Ms. Vanessa. Is she in?" Olivia's eyebrows shot up. A mediator? Vanessa hadn't mentioned anything about a scheduled meeting. "I'm afraid she's out at the moment," Olivia replied carefully. "Are you sure you have the right address?" The woman consulted a note on her phone. "Yes, this is the address Ms. Vanessa gave me for our initial consultation. She requested we meet regarding a custody arrangement matter." Custody arrangement. The phrase spiked Olivia's pulse. She stepped aside to let the mediator in from the drizzle, offering a seat in the living room. The woman politely perched on the sofa. A swirl of questions stormed in Olivia's mind. When had Vanessa arranged this meeting, and why so abruptly? Before she could dwell too long, the sound of a car pulling up signaled Vanessa's return. The front door opened, and in rushed the mother, hair damp from the rain. Behind her were Lucas and Sophia, wide-eyed and chattering about puddles. Vanessa paused at the sight of the visitor. "Miss Hughes," she greeted tersely, setting down her umbrella. "I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." Then she glanced at the twins with mild exasperation. "Children, go with Olivia to the kitchen for a snack, please. This is grown-up business." The twins, though curious, obeyed. Olivia led them away, heart thrumming. She heard fragments as Vanessa introduced the mediator, offering an apology for the scheduling confusion. Then the living room door closed, muffling further conversation. In the kitchen, the children munched apple slices and crackers, ignoring the tension. Occasionally, Lucas asked if Ms. Hughes was a friend of Mommy's, or if Daddy would be coming too. Olivia gently said she didn't know. She tried to keep them occupied, but her ears were keen for any raised voices beyond the closed living room door. Nearly an hour passed before the door opened again. Ms. Hughes emerged holding the same folder, though now it seemed thicker with notes. Vanessa stood behind her, arms folded, posture tight. They spoke in low tones near the foyer, but Olivia caught the gist. "I appreciate your assistance," Vanessa said, forcing politeness. "I'll share the next steps with Daniel if he's willing. Thank you for your time." Ms. Hughes offered a professional nod. "I'm confident we can find a balanced approach, Ms. Vanessa. Just remember, the children's best interests guide every decision. Please keep me informed once you speak to their father." With that, the mediator exited into the rain. Vanessa remained by the door, staring at the droplets streaking the glass panels. She looked drained, as though the confrontation she dreaded was still looming. This had merely been a warm-up. Olivia approached gently, shepherding the twins behind her. "Is everything okay?" she ventured, mindful of her precarious standing. Vanessa glanced at her, tension flickering in her eyes. "I've decided to formalize the visitation arrangement," she said flatly. "No more casual, open-ended agreements. It's time to draft an official schedule. Drop-offs, pickups, or supervised visits if necessary. Ms. Hughes can mediate once Daniel and I both agree to meet." A swirl of relief and worry coursed through Olivia. At least it wasn't a total ban on Daniel, but it felt like a sign Vanessa was preparing for legal lines to be drawn. "Daniel," Olivia began, but stopped herself, recalling the mother's warning about taking sides. Vanessa picked up the subtext, her expression turning stony. "Yes, Daniel. I'll inform him of this. We'll do everything by the book now. So there are no more misunderstandings." Lucas peeked out from behind Olivia's skirt, bright eyes darting from his mother's face to the quiet living room. "Mommy, can we go read a story now?" Vanessa forced a small smile, her posture softening a fraction. "Yes, love, go on and pick a book. I'll join you soon." The twins scampered away. Vanessa exhaled and moved to the kitchen, sinking into a chair at the table. Her gaze drifted across the countertop, then settled on Olivia with a guarded look. "I'm not repeating myself," she said softly, referencing her earlier threat. "But consider the presence of Ms. Hughes a sign of progress. I'm not out to punish Daniel. I just won't have my children caught in the middle of chaos." Olivia clasped her hands, swallowing. "I understand, I truly do." Vanessa wrapped her fingertips on the table. "I'll call him tonight. Tell him about the mediation. If he refuses, I'll escalate to lawyers. This informal messing around ends now." Olivia nodded, relief and dread tangling in her chest. The children needed structure, yes, but would an official schedule truly pave the way for harmony or simply stoke more conflict? The rest of the afternoon moved along in uneasy normalcy. Olivia assisted with the twins' post-preschool routine, while Vanessa retired to her office to make phone calls. The mother's tension was palpable, but at least the day's drama had shifted focus from Olivia's job security to something more official, a legal or mediating path to custody resolution. Evening brought calm rain tapping on the windows, with dinner once again quiet. Lucas pestered for news of Daniel, but Vanessa offered only vague assurances that Daddy might come soon, but we're working out the details. The children accepted that for the moment, though disappointment glowed in their eyes. After dinner, Olivia guided them upstairs for bedtime. She read 2 stories, each child nestling close, occasionally asking if Daddy would read to them again soon. Olivia promised to pass that wish along, kissing their foreheads goodnight. Downstairs, Vanessa emerged from her office phone call, face tight but resolute. Olivia braced herself for another confrontation, but instead the mother sighed and leaned against the kitchen counter. "Daniel's not pleased I brought in a mediator, but he's not outright refusing," she muttered, arms crossed. "He claims he's willing to talk. He just doesn't trust me. Typical." "That's some progress?" Olivia offered carefully. Vanessa pursed her lips. "Better than him ignoring me or making demands. Let's hope we can meet sometime this week with Ms. Hughes. Set up a real schedule." Olivia dared a small nod, optimism flickering. "That might be best for the children, a stable plan." Vanessa shrugged, eyes flicking away. After a beat, she added, "We'll see if it's stable. The moment he tries to push for more than is reasonable, like unsupervised weekends, I'll bring my lawyer into it. But for now, we mediate." Her last words carried an underlying tension, yet also a hint of hope that maybe everything wouldn't have to spiral into a courtroom battle. Olivia inhaled slowly, relieved that at least Daniel wouldn't be cut off entirely. "Is there anything you need me to do?" she asked. Vanessa studied her a long moment, then shook her head. "Just keep the kids safe and happy, and no more stepping outside the lines. If Daniel wants to visit, he can schedule it through me or Ms. Hughes." "Understood," Olivia said softly. She retreated to her room later that night, her thoughts rife with questions. She pictured Daniel's face upon learning a mediator was now in charge. Would he resent the formality, or might he see it as a genuine step toward co-parenting? And what about the twins? Would they embrace a strict schedule, or feel the burden of adult rules overshadowing their natural bond with their father? Olivia stared at the ceiling, letting the rhythm of rain lull her into a sort of uneasy acceptance. Vanessa's next steps, while controlling, might carve a path that gave Daniel rights and the kids consistency. Perhaps the official route could safeguard her own position too. No more sneaking around, no more heartbreak over choosing sides. Maybe all parties could build a fragile but real peace around the twins' best interests. Still, she couldn't ignore a nibbling doubt. People with old hurts and pride don't always follow a neat plan. One clash, one slight miscommunication could ignite fresh bitterness. But for now, at least, the conversation had shifted away from threats of firing her. The best she could do was focus on the children, protect their spirits, provide warmth in the daily routine, and wait to see if the new, official approach could truly mend the fractures in this family. Exhaling a slow breath, Olivia closed her eyes. A mediator was in the picture now, someone experienced in diffusing parental standoffs. That might be exactly what they needed. Cradling a tiny spark of optimism, she surrendered to the lull of rain, hoping that when the morning sun rose, it would shine on a family inching closer to a healthier future for Lucas and Sofia, no matter the cost of grown-up pride. Você disse, yes, solicitação de promote. Terminou de refletir, section 9 to 10. Rain still threatened from the overcast sky on Tuesday morning when the call from Ms. Hughes finally came. Vanessa, seated at the kitchen table with her laptop open, answered on the first ring, her face taut with expectation. Olivia hovered nearby, keeping one ear on the children, who were busy coloring in the living room, and another on the conversation. She caught phrases like Thursday evening meeting and Daniel agreed to attend. It sounded like a breakthrough. The first actual mediation session was set. After hanging up, Vanessa exhaled, pinching the bridge of her nose. He's cooperating, she murmured to Olivia, glancing at the time on her phone. We have a meeting at Ms. Hughes's office in 2 days. Great! Her tone blended relief and reluctance, as if she both welcomed progress and dreaded the potential clash. That's good news, Olivia ventured with cautious optimism. Vanessa gave a slight nod, eyes fixed on a point beyond the rain-streaked window. We'll see, but for the children's sake, I'm trying to stay open-minded. Then her gaze flicked to Olivia. I'll need you here on Thursday evening, obviously. I want the kids at home while Daniel and I hash things out with Ms. Hughes. No confusion, no drama. Of course, Olivia replied softly. Inside, she felt a swirl of relief. A formal meeting might stabilize things, define boundaries, and keep everyone from impulsive flare-ups. The next 2 days passed in uneasy anticipation. Daniel did not visit, presumably to avoid stirring new conflicts before the mediation. The twins, perplexed by his absence, grew quiet. Sofia pouted around the house, hugging her stuffed cat for comfort. Lucas asked daily, Is Daddy mad at us? A question Olivia tried to soothe away with gentle explanations that he's not mad. He's just working on something important with Mommy so you can see him more often soon. Vanessa, meanwhile, threw herself into her job, leaving early and returning late. Yet she did carve out extra time for the children at bedtime, reading them stories or sharing short updates about how they were making plans for family time. As reluctant as she was to cede ground, she seemed to realize that the children's hearts were on the line. If she wanted to maintain their trust, she couldn't slam the door on Daniel entirely. At last, Thursday arrived. The morning glided by smoothly. Olivia walked the twins to preschool, tidied the house, and returned to her usual tasks. By mid-afternoon, the tension among the adults crystallized once again. Vanessa paced her office, phone pressed to her ear, finalizing details with Ms. Hughes. Her conversation was peppered with tight-lipped sighs and clipped affirmations. Clearly, Daniel was on the other line, clarifying time and location. By 5 p.m., the children were home from preschool, finishing dinner at the table. Vanessa, dressed in a neatly pressed blouse and slacks, grabbed her keys and purse, nerves evident in the tightness of her mouth. I'll be back in a couple of hours, she told the children. Be good for Olivia. Lucas tugged at her sleeve, brow furrowed. Are you seeing Daddy? She paused, glancing from him to Sophia. Yes, we have an important meeting, she said gently. But don't worry, we're just talking about plans for you two. I'll let you know when I'm back. Sophia's eyes lit with hope. Does that mean we can see him soon? Vanessa forced a smile. That's what we're trying to figure out, sweetie. With that, she left, the front door closing softly behind her. The children perked up as if convinced the night might end with some good news about Daddy. Olivia was less certain. She only knew that Ms. Hughes's job was to help them find a resolution, but there was no guarantee the mother and father wouldn't butt heads more fiercely. Still, it was a step forward. She guided the twins through their evening routine, a short playtime, a cartoon, then bedtime preparations. But neither child showed much interest in TV or toys. They fidgeted, glancing at the clock, sneaking peeks through the windows as dusk settled. Even after Olivia read them a story, they resisted lying down, fearful they might miss Vanessa's return. It was nearly 8:30 by the time the front door opened again. Olivia gently coaxed the children from their beds, letting them tiptoe halfway down the stairs to see their mother. Vanessa stepped in with Daniel behind her, an unexpected sight, given she'd insisted on neutrality. Immediately, the children lit up, bounding down the final steps. "Daddy!" Lucas cried, seizing Daniel's arm. Sophia wrapped herself around his waist. The father knelt, hugging them both, wearing a weary but genuine smile. Olivia blinked in surprise. She'd expected them to sort out a schedule, not come home together. Vanessa's stance was stiff, arms crossed, but she didn't object to the little reunion. She looked resigned, as if Ms. Hughes had convinced her that a brief, calm ending to the evening might help the children adjust. "You're still awake, you two," Daniel teased gently. "Shouldn't you be sleeping by now?" "Not yet," Sophia insisted, beaming. "Mommy was gone, and we wanted to see if you were coming." Vanessa cleared her throat. "Yes, well, just for a few minutes, then it's definitely bedtime. Olivia, can you get them some water, please?" "Of course," Olivia said. She slipped into the kitchen, filling 2 small cups, hands trembling slightly with mixed relief and curiosity. A short moment later, she returned to find Daniel seated on the sofa, each twin nestled on either side. Vanessa hovered near the wall, posture guarded. "So," Lucas ventured, sipping his water, "did you talk about us?" Daniel let out a soft chuckle. "Yes, buddy. We talked a lot about you and your sister and how we can spend time together." Vanessa nodded, a hint of tension in her voice. "We've decided, at least for the next month, there'll be scheduled visits twice during the week plus a Saturday outing, all supervised for now." She glanced at Daniel. Ms. Hughes recommended this step to ensure stability for the children. Daniel acknowledged her statement without bristling. "Right, supervised, which means I'll come here for dinner or reading time, and then we'll do something outside on Saturdays, all 3 of us, or 4, if we can manage it." He side-eyed Vanessa, who gave a cool shrug, neither confirming nor denying her involvement. Hearing this, Sophia nearly jumped for joy. "Every Saturday?" she squealed. "Does that mean the park or the zoo?" "Yes, maybe the zoo," Daniel promised, ruffling her hair. "We'll work up to bigger adventures, okay?" Olivia leaned against the armchair, quietly absorbing the scene. It wasn't perfect. Vanessa's tense posture and the mention of supervised visits hinted at underlying distrust. But the children appeared thrilled by the prospect of a regular schedule. The mother and father had come home together, albeit warily, and offered them a united front, if only for tonight. Vanessa coughed softly. "It's late. Kids, say goodnight, please." They pouted, reluctant to break the moment, but eventually gave in. Daniel kissed each small forehead, whispering that he'd see them next time. Hand in hand, the twins scurried upstairs with Olivia. She tucked them in, listening to their excited whispers about zoos and board games. "Everything's gonna be so fun now," Sophia declared, hugging her stuffed cat. "We get to see Daddy more." By the time Olivia returned downstairs, Daniel was shrugging into his jacket. "Thanks for letting me come by," he said to Vanessa. "I think it helped reassure them." Vanessa nodded tersely. "Ms. Hughes suggested a small show of unity tonight, so here it is." She paused, crossing her arms. "We'll try this schedule for a month, then revisit with the mediator. If all goes well, we can discuss less supervision." The father's shoulders relaxed. "Agreed," he said, turning to Olivia. "Thanks for taking care of them so well. Sorry if I caught you off guard." She offered a polite smile. "No problem. The kids are thrilled." With a final exchange of brittle civility, Daniel departed into the rainy night. Once the door closed, Vanessa let out a long breath. She flicked her gaze at Olivia. "We'll see how this goes. 1 month. Ms. Hughes will want progress updates weekly." Olivia nodded, feelings of relief, hope, and lingering unease swirling. "I'm sure we can manage. The children will be happy to have a routine." Vanessa said nothing, her eyes drifting to the window. The streetlights glowed against the damp pavement, a silent testament to the fragile new arrangement. After a moment, she murmured, "They're overjoyed, obviously. But if Daniel tries anything, like pushing for overnight stays or stepping outside the schedule..." She trailed off, leaving the threat unspoken. Then she pivoted and ascended the stairs, likely to turn in for the night. Olivia stood alone for a moment in the foyer, thoughts buzzing. The new plan offered a glimmer of structure that might reduce the chaos, but it was built on a precarious foundation of mistrust. One misstep from Daniel, one perceived betrayal, and the fragile peace might crumble. Nonetheless, she couldn't ignore the children's shining eyes, their squeals of joy at the mention of weekly visits with Daddy. For them, this shift from sporadic tension to a dependable schedule was a gift, a chance to solidify the fatherly bond they'd yearned for. Quietly, she tidied the living room, picking up a lone stuffed dinosaur from the floor. In her mind, she replayed the sweet moment of Daniel reading to them last week, and the tremor in Vanessa's voice when she said, "I'm doing this for the children." Perhaps, ironically, they both wanted the same thing, happiness and security for Lucas and Sophia. If they could keep their pride and resentments in check, this arrangement might truly flourish. Yet experience told her to remain cautious. The next month would test them all, Vanessa's control, Daniel's patience, the children's expectations. Olivia's role was to support the routine, to shield the twins from adult quarrels, and ensure the new plan took root in love rather than conflict. As she flipped off the last lamp, she whispered a small prayer that the first official steps in this mediation would prove to be a genuine turning point. Because in the hush of that rain-soaked evening, hope mingled with the knowledge that even the best intentions could falter. All she could do was press forward day by day, trusting that for once grown-ups might keep their promises to the children who had waited so long for a real family circle, even if it came with supervised boundaries and the watchful eye of a mediator. Você disse, yes, solicitação de ou promote, terminou de refletir, section 10-10. 1 week into the new schedule, the household settled into a precarious calm, like a spinning top balanced on its tip. Daniel arrived every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 6 o'clock sharp, exactly as arranged through Ms. Hughes. The twins ran to greet him at the door, their laughter echoing across the foyer. Vanessa hovered nearby, observing with careful scrutiny, reminding both Daniel and Olivia of the ground rules. No extra outings, no surprises, everything strictly timed. Saturday brought the first family outing under the mediator's plan. At Ms. Hughes's recommendation, Vanessa stayed close, yet she made an effort to not overshadow Daniel's interactions with the children. Together, they chose the local zoo as a neutral ground, large enough to offer plenty of space but not so big as to create chaos. On the morning of the trip, Olivia rose early to pack lunches and gather necessities, anticipating the children's excitement. She was just zipping up a small backpack in the kitchen when Vanessa walked in, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. "I'm not sure how this day will go," Vanessa admitted quietly. "The twins are thrilled, but I worry Daniel might try to push boundaries. Ms. Hughes said I can't micromanage every moment, but it's the first real family outing since he returned," Olivia said, choosing her words gently. "The children are hopeful. Maybe focusing on them will help keep the tension low." Vanessa pressed her lips together. "I know. Let's be honest. I never pictured spending a Saturday side by side with him again." Despite the mother's visible anxiety, she had dressed in casual clothes, jeans and a simple blouse, and seemed determined to carry out the plan. Right on time, Daniel arrived, also opting for a relaxed look. The twins practically danced around his legs, chanting, "Zoo, zoo, zoo!" Meanwhile, Vanessa hurried to the car, checking her phone, warily eyeing Daniel's every move. The drive to the zoo was divided, Vanessa in the driver's seat, Daniel up front, the kids chattering away in the back, and Olivia squeezed between them to keep the peace. She felt the tension between the parents, though neither raised their voice. Instead, each tried to maintain a polite civility. Once they reached the zoo, the children bolted toward the entrance, squealing with excitement over the promise of lions, giraffes, and elephants. Vanessa purchased tickets while Daniel kept an eye on Lucas and Sophia's boundless energy. Olivia lingered, ready to intervene if needed, though Ms. Hughes's guidelines suggested she step back and let the parents handle most of the interaction. The day unspooled with surprising calm. Daniel held Lucas's hand as they strolled past the giraffe enclosure, Sophia perched on Vanessa's hip, pointing at a baby giraffe chewing leaves. They rode the small zoo train as a group, the children shrieking with delight at every twist of the tracks. Gradually, Olivia noticed that Vanessa seemed less guarded. She even laughed quietly when Daniel made a silly joke about monkeys imitating Lucas. For brief moments, the tension softened, replaced by a genuine shared affection for the twins. It wasn't perfect. A few times Vanessa reminded Daniel not to buy too many treats, or Daniel bristled when Vanessa insisted on setting a strict lunchtime. But overall, they managed a fragile accord. By midday, the group found a shaded picnic spot. Olivia laid out sandwiches and fruit, offering a semblance of normalcy. The children, cheeks flushed from hours of excitement, recounted each animal they'd seen, their eyes shining. Daniel, sipping water, occasionally stole uncertain glances at Vanessa, as if testing if she might bite back at some minor comment. But the mother remained mostly calm, focusing on wiping Sophia's sticky fingers or responding to Lucas's incessant questions. Olivia maintained a quiet presence, content to see the day flowing without angry sparks. Eventually, they ambled toward the exit. The twins, tired but happy, held hands with Daniel and Vanessa. Olivia followed, thinking how surreal it was to witness all four of them together, a family slowly learning how to navigate years of secrecy and resentment. She hoped it was a sign of healing rather than a passing truce. Back at the house, the children proudly displayed their small souvenirs, stuffed zoo animals they'd convinced the parents to buy. Vanessa allowed Daniel a few more minutes inside before his scheduled departure. He knelt to hug Lucas and Sophia goodbye, promising another outing soon. When he finally turned to leave, Vanessa accompanied him to the door. Olivia busied herself helping the children put away their new toys in the living room. But she could feel the undercurrent in the foyer, a hush of words exchanged too low for the twins to hear. She caught scattered phrases. "I appreciate the effort" from Vanessa, and "we'll continue at this pace" from Daniel. Then the door clicked shut. The mother returned, exhaling a measured breath. She seemed tired but not angry. "That went better than expected," she confessed, her voice laced with surprise. The twins were happy, no major arguments. Maybe Ms. Hughes was right about taking it one step at a time. Olivia offered a small smile. "They had a wonderful day, and I think they could sense that you two were trying." Vanessa nodded, a glint of softened pride in her eyes. For once she didn't bristle at the compliment. "Let's keep it up," she said quietly, as if more to herself than anyone else. "A month ago, I'd never have imagined we'd be at the zoo together of all things. But the kids deserve it." She turned, saying something to the twins about washing up before dinner, leaving Olivia alone in the foyer. A gentle feeling of optimism glowed within her, mingled with the knowledge that complacency could be dangerous. Yet today's small success felt like a true step forward, a day without confrontation, a day where love for the children took precedence over old wounds and fragile egos. The evening followed smoothly. Dinner, baths, bedtime stories. At lights out, Lucas and Sophia regaled Olivia with stories of zebras and playful otters, gleefully recalling Daniel's funny impressions of the animals. Olivia tucked them in, smiling at their untroubled joy. For these children, the world was simpler when both parents worked together, however awkwardly, to give them happy memories. When she stepped out, Vanessa stood by the hall window, gazing into the night. Sensing Olivia's presence, she spoke in a low tone. "Thank you for helping with everything. Today was important." Olivia answered softly, "I'm glad it went well for everyone." Vanessa's lips pressed tight. "I have no illusions that Daniel and I will be best friends," she said. "But if the next visits go similarly, maybe we can stabilize this situation for Lucas and Sophia. Maybe we can truly co-parent in a civil manner." An unexpected rush of relief filled Olivia. She nodded. "That's all anyone wants, especially the children." Vanessa's eyes flicked to her, and for the first time in a long while, there was a hint of acceptance in her expression, acknowledging that Olivia had played a significant role in guiding them this far. She gave a faint, almost grateful inclination of her head before moving to her bedroom, calling over her shoulder, "Good night." Left alone in the hallway, Olivia breathed out a shaky sigh. In the span of a few weeks, they had moved from angry secret meetings and threats of job termination to a cautious family zoo trip. The tension was far from gone, but maybe the once-hidden father was now becoming a consistent figure in the twins' everyday life, without tearing the mother-dominated status quo apart. She quietly descended to her small bedroom, heart full. For the first time since discovering Daniel's sudden arrival in the park, she felt that genuine progress toward a healthy family dynamic might be possible. The path ahead would likely have its share of detours. More sessions with Ms. Hughes, disagreements about overnights or holidays. But if they could sustain today's spirit, there was hope that Lucas and Sophia would grow up sharing memories that included both parents, not just the echo of what might have been. Sitting on the edge of her bed, Olivia curled her hands in her lap, recalling the children's laughter as they fed the giraffes. She knew that not every family overcame secrets so gracefully, but small victories, like a harmonious day at the zoo, could lay the foundation for something new. She closed her eyes, silently wishing for the resilience of every bond in this household, praying that day by day, love and understanding would eclipse the shadows of the past. After all, the twins' simple joy was worth fighting for. Their smiles said it all. This was what they'd always wanted, and somehow finally, the adults were determined to make it happen. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.